Chapter 574. In the long corridor, the atmosphere suddenly became awkward because of Jiang Ye's words. Lin Jingwei had already given up. He already knew that Qin Guang's acting skills were lacking, but now that Jiang Ye had appeared, he had to say the wrong thing again. Now Qin Guang was faced with such a situation. He had to maintain the cold attitude towards Bai Hua, and at the same time he had to pretend to be happy to see Jiang Ye. After all, Jiang Ye was a famous artist in the country. Ordinary people would never have the chance to meet her. Apart from that, Qin Guang couldn't appear too excited because he was still playing the role of a cold goddess. In that case, he had to maintain his cold demeanor and then bring out an appropriate surprise. However, he had just rejected white birch, so he had to control his emotions a little. Lin Jingwei's scalp went numb just thinking about the difficulty, but he couldn't provide any substantial help to Qin Guang. He could only clench his fists in his heart. "Brother Guang. Come on. Brother, I support you." Bai Hua was still immersed in the pain of being rejected, but he didn't want to appear too down in the face of an acquaintance. He told himself in his heart, "Bai Hua, pull yourself together. I should have thought of this setback before we met. If it wasn't for the fact that she had no interest in me, why would she keep refusing to see me? I must have performed too badly before, but it doesn't matter. Be brave, Bai Hua. Bring out your intelligence and reinvigorate yourself. Sincerity can split metal and stone. You can't give up. So what if she's gay? That's only because she hasn't met an outstanding man who can move her heart. Maybe she still thinks that I'm a hedonistic second generation who only covets her beauty, so it's understandable that she would feel disgusted. After all, even I find it hard to believe. Who would have thought that I would be so emotional on our first meeting? Time will give you the answer. Bai Hua, put away your arrogance and pride. Be like a real man and use your most sincere feelings to move her bit by bit." Bai Hua was indeed worthy of being called a proud son of heaven of his generation. His mind was filled with so many thoughts in an instant. After thinking so much, only a few seconds had passed. After a brief moment of surprise, Bai Hua put away the depression on his face and put on a pleasantly surprised smile. "We came here to sing. Song of Solomon. Are you in Tianhe number 1 private room? I was wondering who it was that stole my private room. If it was you, then I wouldn't be surprised at all." Bai Hua's fists were clenched tightly behind his back, but on his face, he had completely regained his usual confident demeanor. Jiang Ye, on the other hand, was very sharp. As one of the best young performers, she was very familiar with the control of facial expressions. No matter how fast Bai Hua's expression changed, it couldn't be hidden from her eyes. This atmosphere isn't right, Jiang Ye thought to herself. But she wasn't in a hurry to point it out. Instead, she rolled her eyes and said, "We all thought you guys weren't coming, so we asked for Tianhe number 1. But that's fine. Since it's rare to meet, let's sing together. And this is?" Jiang Ye turned her attention to Qin Guang, who had his back turned to her and cast a puzzled look. Bai Hua and Lin Jingwei simultaneously turned their eyes to Qin Guang. Bai Hua's eyes revealed a complicated expression. As for Lin Jingwei, well, it was already completely empty. Xiao Linzi only thought that in the next second he would definitely be exposed. At this moment, Qin Guang was facing the most serious acting test of his life. Who was Jiang Ye? She was a movie, TV, and singing superstar. She had appeared in so many movies and TV shows that her die-hard fans couldn't even remember them all. Although she was still very young, she was already a veteran in the performing arts. She was also very familiar with him, so how could he pretend to be a woman in front of her? Wasn't this showing off in front of an expert? If he wasn't careful, he would be exposed. Not to mention that I even set such a strange state for myself. Tears streamed down Qin Guang's face. Forget it, I'll just have to act as I can. If I'm exposed, then so be it. I'll do whatever I want. He silently turned around and looked at Jiang Ye, forcing a smile on his face. Unexpectedly at this time, Bai Hua took a step forward and said, "Solomon, let me introduce you. This is Qin Yu, a friend of mine in Jingwei. She just came back from abroad to start her own business. She's your loyal fan." As Bai Hua said this, he winked at Qin Guang. His little eyes seemed to be showing off. "Look at how considerate I am. I know you like Jiang Ye, so I helped you get close to her." Qin Guang felt a chill in his heart. "Brother, I really didn't expect you to be so tolerant. This is the most ruthless homosexual killing. You just pinched your nose and accepted it all?" In the past, Qin Guang never felt that those senior executives of big companies were anything special. They all had 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 nose. I'm only worse than them because I wasn't born in a rich family. But today he was finally convinced. With such a high family background, Bai Hua was indeed someone who could do great things. His nerves were beyond imagination, and his emotional control was so strong that it made people's hair stand on end. I'm convinced. What should I do? How should I say it? The corner of Qin Guang's mouth twitched. He laughed and said, hee hee. When I was studying in North Carolina, I often listened to left and right-hand songs. They're very nice, hee hee. Jiang Yage looked at Qin Guang suspiciously. She subconsciously felt that this beautiful girl's expression gave her a taste of cheap. It was a bit similar to a certain person in her mind. That's impossible. This older sister is clearly a tall and elegant international supermodel. Why would I have this kind of misconception? Although she seems a bit embarrassed, it should be natural for fans to be reserved when they see their idol. But why do I feel that her smile is cheap? Is it because I miss him so much that I'm in a trance? Strange. Sure enough, as expected of an expert. With just a glance at Jiang Yage, she had doubts in her heart. But she quickly adjusted and patted her head. Nice to meet you, Qin Yu. Come and sing with us. Lin Jingwei and Brother Bai's friends are our friends. As she spoke, she moved closer to Qin Guang and held Qin Guang's hand with a smile. She clasped it tightly between her breasts and pushed Qin Guang into Tianhe No. 1 private room. Although this Qin Yu's hand isn't too thick, her muscles are so tight. Are these really a girl's hands? Jiang Yage's mind abruptly recalled a Hollywood action star that she had worked with in a movie before. The strange thought that popped up in her mind quickly disappeared. Indeed, some girls like to work out. They might not be as strong as men, but their muscles were just as firm. Qin Guang struggled. He didn't want to be pushed by Jiang Yage. He just wanted to run away, but... Fine, she clasped it too tightly. The delicate and cute Jiang Yage's chest was very firm. It was like a pair of pliers that tightly clamped Qin Guang's arm. Bai Hua saw the opportunity and felt that the situation had turned for the better. Although he was a little unwilling to see Jiang Yage holding Qin Yu's arm, he didn't have any psychological barriers. He didn't believe that gay people could play any tricks. Yes, it's rare to see each other. Let's sing a few songs together. Bai Hua also egged on from the side. At this time, Jin Shuiwei also came out. When she saw Bai Hua at the door, she was a little nervous. But when she realized that Bai Hua's attention was on the tall woman next to him, she couldn't help but ask, "This is Qin Yu?" "This is Qin Yu." Bai Hua volunteered again. His voice was especially loud. Jin Shuiwei understood. Although this was her first time meeting Qin Yu, she had actually heard of this name a long time ago. After the concert, Bai Hua had deliberately told Jin Shuiwei about this matter. He didn't want the misunderstanding between the two parties to continue to deepen. At this time, Qin Guang didn't want to say anything. Why is everyone here? It's like seeing a ghost. Okay, I admit that my acting skills are terrible. I really can't act like I hate Bai Hua and love Jiang Yage in this kind of situation. It's better to keep a cold face and leave. Qin Guang first forced a smile, then said, I still have some things to do today and I don't really like to sing. You guys have fun, I'll leave first. After saying that, he quietly tried to break free from Jiang Yage's restraints. On the other side, Jin Shuiwei rolled her eyes and looked at Bai Hua's disappointed but determined eyes. She instantly understood the situation. Brother Bai Hua was very enthusiastic about Qin Yu, but it was obvious that she didn't care about him. Currently, Brother Bai Hua was still in a state of unrequited love. Qin Yu was a rose with thorns and it wasn't easy to pursue her. I'll help him. Jin Shuiwei quickly made a decision. It was rare for Bai Hua to finally walk out of her shadow and pursue his true happiness. Since I bumped into him, I'll try to find a way to matchmake the two of them. With this thought in mind, Jin Shuiwei also came over and hugged Qin Guang's other hand. Together with Jiang Yage, they took Qin Guang to the Heaven Harmony No. 1 private room. Lin Jingwei, who was standing behind Qin Guang, watched with wide eyes. A double sandwich attack. This attack was too fierce. Brother Guang couldn't hold on much longer. If he put up the tent in his pants at this time, he would be exposed on the spot. Today, someone would definitely die. Brother Guang and I would definitely be stabbed to death by Brother Bai Hua, and then Brother Bai Hua would commit suicide. Lin Jingwei closed his eyes and clasped his hands together. He secretly prayed, "God, quickly come and save me and Brother Guang. Help me." Lin Jingwei's guess was right. At this time, Qin Guang was in great pain and happiness. The terrifying attack from the left and right was like a tsunami crashing into his mind. Jin Shuiwei's breasts were a little fuller than Jiang Yage's, and she had a better understanding of Qin Guang's desire to run away at this time, so she clamped her breasts harder than Jiang Yage's. The tightness and fullness of her breasts, which were tightly pressed against her body, brought about a strong sense of touch, were even clearer. The most insane thing was that Jin Shuiwei used one hand to press Qin Guang's arm against her chest. Her other hand grabbed his palm and pressed it directly on her lower abdomen. The flat abdomen without any excess flesh gave Qin Guang an amazing sensation. The devilish temptation was teasing his heart bit by bit. His face was still forced to maintain a cold and silent expression. However, there was a strange flush of blood on his face. This was because there was a flame burning in the depths of his heart. Not good. The old man's primitive power was about to go out of control. It was completely out of control. Keep from me. Namo Amitabha. Buddha sits in the heart. Wine and meat pass through the intestines. No matter how the wind blows, I will stand firm. Alright, this mnemonic chant was useless. The self-torture of ice and fire finally caused him to lose control of one of his weapons. Feeling that a certain part of his lower body was gradually withstanding the small pressure, Qin Guang only had one thought in his mind. It's over. I'm such a terrible actor. Everything that happened in such a short period of time was too sudden. At this moment, he had completely forgotten about the external cultivation method in the painting scroll. His mind was filled with sorrow for his current situation. He subconsciously used his left hand, which was not completely grabbed by Jiang Yage, to gently press down on the satchel hanging on his left shoulder. Inside the satchel was his heavenly holy grail. Then, he entered the world in the cup. Time stopped. Light flowed. When he came back to his senses, he was already standing in the middle of Cloud City. Liuli's computer seemed to be gone. She was sitting cross-legged on the ground with her brows tightly furrowed. He had no idea what she was practicing or what the hell she was doing. Qin Guang looked at her silently. He was completely speechless. He felt that he was extremely unlucky today. His mind was already filled with the painting scroll, but he still failed at the last moment. The moment he failed, he was pulled back by the heavenly holy grail. He felt that his life was simply a comedy that had been performed to the extreme. Just as a certain great master once said, the essence behind a true comedy was actually a tragedy. The heavenly holy grail's world in the cup seemed to always be able to catch him off guard with unexpected methods. The 3-second attack last time was not even as good as 3 seconds this time. This unlucky world in the cup's ability to grasp the weak points was unparalleled. Qin Guang silently looked up at the blue sky with white clouds. He thought to himself, what's the use of me practicing the strongest cross-dressing skill in history? At this moment, Liuli seemed to have sensed his arrival. She opened her eyes slightly and glanced at him. Pfft. She covered her mouth and laughed. She had completely failed. Qin Guang looked down at his clothes and touched his hair. Damn, he still had the same cross-dressing look after coming in. You actually look pretty good like this. Do you want to know what world in the cup is this time? Liuli chuckled. Qin Guang waved his hand. Alright, you don't have to say any more. I understand. I accept my fate. Looking at his lifeless appearance, Liuli rolled her eyes and said mischievously, the world of women's clothing. Damn. Can I not say it out loud? Qin Guang hammered his chest again and again. His heart hurt so much that he wanted to die. Liuli shook her head. That won't do. Good news has to be said so that everyone can be happy. I don't want to talk to you. What were you doing just now? Why did I vaguely see something fall from your body and connect to the floor? Knowing that she never said anything nice, Qin Guang simply didn't care about what the next world in the cup was. Anyway, he would deal with it as it came. Liuli also acted shamelessly. I don't want to talk to you, so I won't tell you. The two didn't talk for long before a familiar and terrifying suction descended from the sky. Qin Guang's head was sucked away. After Qin Guang disappeared, Lu Minghua's voice came from afar. Sister Liuli, it's too much to tease him like this. Liuli chuckled. Isn't this where the fun lies? Speaking of which, why don't you show any signs of transforming? Lu Minghua sighed. Don't talk about it. My roots have already grown for almost 10,000 miles under this cloud city, but I still haven't seen the bottom. I'm sinking deeper and deeper. Sister Liuli, that's a part of your soul fusing into the holy cup, but this flower's body has grown into the holy cup. Why are we two sisters so unlucky? Now, I've become a vessel for his faith. I'm really tired. I feel like my body is about to overflow from being stuffed to the point of bursting. Tui? Talk properly, don't be so vulgar. Didn't you do it yourself? Who asked you to eat his hair? Didn't I get hurt by you too? Chapter 575. Liuli was scolding Lu Ming when she suddenly froze. A rather strange expression appeared on her face. Lu Ming chuckled, it's coming, the meat toilet from the women's clothing mountain range. Liuli glared fiercely in Lu Ming's direction. You are the meat toilet. Your whole flower is a meat toilet. Shut up, this emperor is a mirror this time. Lu Ming asked curiously, mirror? Isn't it acting? Why is it a mirror? Lioli really didn't have the mood to explain to her, because Qin Guang's special training in the cup world had already begun. On the other hand, Qin Guang plunged out after passing through the long spacetime tunnel. This time he didn't hit the water surface, but fiercely hit the mirror glass that was as hard as iron, making him dizzy and confused. He almost got a concussion. He staggered up and sat on the ground for a long time. He looked around but couldn't see anything clearly. He only felt that everything he saw was spinning and his head was buzzing. After a long time he finally came back to his senses. Damn it, I forgot to fill the cup with water this time. There was only one feeling in his head, pain. Sigh, why is my life so bitter? I just had to mix into the women's clothing world. How can I erase this stain in my life? If my father knows that his son has become a woman's clothing fetish, he will definitely beat me to death, right? With such a desperate mood, Qin Guang looked around. He thought that waiting for him would be countless dazzling women's clothing, but it was empty. There was nothing in the round cup world with a diameter of 1 kilometer. What's going on? Qin Guang tried to take 2 steps and looked around carefully, but it was really empty. He rubbed his eyes. Is there anyone around? No matter who it is, tell me what the hell is going on. Stop howling, this time the cup world is testing your acting skills, not your unlucky cross-dressing. Lu Li's voice suddenly rang out from the bottom of his heart, making Qin Guang so moved that his eyes brimmed with tears. After being tricked by the cup countless times, he finally gave it a try. It was a sad thing to lose the opportunity to practice the external kung fu of the Danqing volume. However, the world in the cup changed from cross-dressing to acting, which he feared the most, and brought him back from hell to the human world. Even if he couldn't go to heaven, he should be very happy. Come to think of it, the judgment of the Holy Grail was not unreasonable. He had already put on this outfit long ago, but the moment before he came in, his mind was thinking about how to play the role he was currently playing, how to show his excellent acting skills, and how to become a professional actor so that he could deal with the extremely awkward situation he was currently in. On top of that, he had been pondering over the script whenever he had the chance. His current state of mind, coupled with the accumulation of his thoughts over the past few days, caused him to crave acting skills the most at that moment. Qin Guang had always thought that the Holy Grail was tricking him, but the Holy Grail had never failed to capture his desire and obsession. It's great that you're not cross-dressing. Qin Guang patted his chest. Oh my God, you don't know how scared I was just now. Don't just rejoice, this acting test isn't that easy to pass. Lu Li's tone was solemn. Qin Guang was suddenly alarmed. What do you mean? People will die? Yes, people will die, Lu Li replied. Qin Guang simply didn't believe it. Stop joking, it's just acting. If you don't act well, you'll die? Lu Li spat. Isn't it common for people to die in a play? But that's fake death. But this is the world in the cup. If you can't act to the satisfaction of the Holy Grail, you'll really die. For example, the prop gun will become a real gun. This time, Qin Guang began to panic. If you have something to say, then say it. Don't shout about fighting and killing. It's useless talking to this empress, go talk to the mirror. Lu Li chuckled and didn't move again. After a short while, a mirror suddenly appeared in front of Qin Guang. It was about the height of a person and looked like a full-length changing mirror. However, Qin Guang was on full alert. Lu Li had already said that people would die. Who knew if a gun would suddenly jump out from the mirror? After waiting for a while, there was still no movement. The image in the originally misty white mirror suddenly became clear. Who is this? Why is she so beautiful? Qin Guang frowned as he looked at the overly beautiful tall woman in the mirror. Then he turned around and vomited. Damn, a mirror is a mirror, it's me in it, okay. He quickly tore off the wig, then ran to the corner of the world in the cup to find a small puddle and washed his face red. He also took off his slightly tight shirt. Only then did he return to the mirror. This time, the big bald man in the mirror was much more pleasing to the eye. This time, the world in the cup is a world of acting. There are a total of 3 major stages. The first stage is basic training. Qin Guang was happy. As expected of the considerate world in the cup. That's right, how could it be so heartless? From the beginning they should start from the basics. The second stage is intensive training. Qin Guang's smile became more and more brilliant. After the basics was the strengthening. It was very reasonable and humane. Lu Li must be talking nonsense. It's just practicing acting. Even if it's a line in the sky, it won't be life-threatening. The third stage, death combat. F***CK. Forget it, there's no need to say any more. The moment he heard the name of the third stage, he knew it wasn't a joke. The old man admitted defeat. The so-called actor was 70% talent and 30% hard work. It was obvious that Qin Guang didn't have much talent. Otherwise, even as a beginner, he wouldn't have ruined the entire scene by playing a small role on the set. In terms of acting, his talent was in the negatives. However, the skills produced by the Heavenly Holy Grail couldn't be discounted. They had to be the strongest in history. Therefore, he had to use countless hours of hard work to reach the standard of the Heavenly Holy Grail to make up for his negative talent. He silently sat in front of the mirror and looked at himself in it. He thought to himself, what's the basic training like? Will the reflection in the mirror suddenly open its mouth and give a lecture? Just as he was thinking about this, he saw the reflection in the mirror suddenly move. The hand of the person in the mirror suddenly reached out of the mirror. When it retracted, it was holding a thick book as thick as the Oxford Dictionary. The next moment, the person in the mirror suddenly swung his arm and threw the Oxford Dictionary out of the mirror. Fortunately, Qin Guang reacted quickly and caught it. He took a look at the cover. Stanislavski and the Experiential Performing Arts. After all this time, this mirror was just a bookshelf. Did you have to be so domineering when you passed the book to me? Please read the entire text and practice your self-training in front of the mirror. The electronic voice of the Heavenly Holy Grail sounded again. Studying such an obscure book was undoubtedly extremely difficult for an ordinary person like Qin Guang, who didn't want to be an actor. However, this was the world in the cup. He had no other choice but to study. Even if it was disgusting, boring, or even breaking down, he would just take things as they came. Studying was much more interesting than sharpening pencils. He had to thank the Heavenly Holy Grail's special ability to seal his emotions. Even though he knew that he was disgusted to the point of wanting to vomit under normal circumstances, he still easily finished the book. It took him about 3 years. During this period, he even had to make fixed expressions in front of the mirror from time to time according to the performing arts training methods recorded in the tome. For example, happiness, anger, loneliness, depression, and so on. Towards the end, the emotions became more and more complicated. For example, tears of joy, sorrow after extreme joy, or embarrassment and anger after receiving bad news, only to find out that the messenger had made a mistake. In Stanislavski's system, an excellent performing artist must learn to have absolute control over their emotions. When performing, they must become one with the character they were about to portray. In this kind of performance, it could be said that the actor was above the character. It was more like the actor had completely immersed himself in the character and pushed the boat along with the current. This kind of performance seemed complicated and unfathomable, but in fact, it could also be learned through professional training. A beginner actor with outstanding acting talent would need about 3 months to learn all the methods and techniques recorded in the tome and reach the barely qualified standard. However, it took Qin Guang 3 years. 3 years without sleep, rest, food, or drink, and tireless. Finally closing the thick tome, Qin Guang watched the book slowly disassemble in his hands. His heart was filled with mixed feelings. The Heavenly Holy Grail's electronic voice sounded in his ears. Stanislavski and the Experiential Performing Arts completed. It wasn't easy. He let out a long sigh. The basic training should be over. The electronic voice sounded again. Basic training completed 1%. Pfft. Qin Guang's eyes widened. He was completely dumbfounded. It took him so long to finish a book, and now you're telling him that it was only 1%. Without giving him a chance to redress his grievances, the man in the mirror tossed him an even thicker tome. Qin Guang caught it and read it. He could only curse at the man's mother and father. I've worked so hard to learn the superficial theories of the experiential school, and now you want me to learn the expressive school. How inhumane. Comprehensive analysis of an actor's dual personality, the artistic techniques of the expressive school. In the theory of the expressive school, the performer had 2 selves. One was the actor's soul, and the other was the actor's voice and body. In the process of performing arts, the first self, which was the actor's soul, would always remain in an absolutely calm state. However, through long-term training, the performance of the external second self could be expanded to the extreme, turning the second self into clay in the hands of the artist, which could be molded into any shape at will. Using a calm mind to control the body and voice, the performing arts could be displayed externally. This was because the performing arts itself was something that was shown to the outside world. The expressive school and the experiential school were 2 completely opposite theories. Although they were both performing arts, they were as incompatible as water and fire. Qin Guang, who had just been influenced by the experiential school, suddenly switched to the expressive school. This was torture for him. Fortunately, he could not break down in the realm of the Heavenly Holy Grail, and he had endless time. Laugh loudly. Laugh crazily. Laugh implicitly. She laughed hysterically out of anger. Cry. Cry angrily. Cry of suppressed sadness. Cry of ecstasy and uncontrollable emotions. Unlike the experiential school which focused on emotions, the expressive school's training methods mainly focused on the release of completely external emotions. In the process of training in front of the mirror, Qin Guang was required to have the exact same expression as the person in the mirror. Even the expression in his eyes and the voice that came out of his mouth could not be the slightest bit different. The same went for his body language. From simple to difficult, from static to dynamic. After finishing this secret of the expressive school, he finally understood the strengths of Jiang Yage and Jin Shirue. No matter what their personalities were like, at least in terms of acting, the two were simply impeccable. Just like Jiang Yage, even if she was secretly happy about something in front of the camera, she was a heroine who cried hysterically after losing her loved ones. Another 3 years passed and Qin Guang passed. 2 years later, he finished another form of expression, the past and present of the American method. The method was a deeper extension of the experiential school. In addition to showing the state of the character at the time of the event, the performer also had to completely create the character's personality and life, so that the character completely ignored the camera. On the stage or in the shooting scene, it was like living in a film and television work, using a natural way to live the story. For example, before Robert De Niro acted in Taxi Driver, he really drove a taxi for a period of time and experienced the life of a taxi driver. Then Qin Guang entered a sad endless cycle. Experiential school, expressive school and method school, these three forms of artistic expression alternated. After 33 terrifying cycles, Qin Guang finally pushed the basic training to 99%. Looking at the last book that was thrown out of the hands of the person in the mirror, the fourth performing art. Compared with the 99 tomes that he had read before, this last book was very thin, about the thickness of a thumb. But when Qin Guang held this book, he was so excited that his hands were shaking. Finally, he was about to become a wife. This unlucky basic training was really not easy. Even though he gradually got the feeling of reading, and his speed of reading became faster and faster, almost 100 years had passed. He felt that he had changed a lot. He had never liked acting and now he hated it even more. Like an ocean, a vast amount of acting knowledge was stored in his brain. Although he might have learned along the way and it was impossible for his brain to really remember that much, there were some things that did not need to be memorized. This crazy cramming training had brought him spiritual and physical sublimation and change, and he had found a special feeling for the art of acting from the bottom of his heart. But with his current state he might be able to become a qualified actor after he went out, but he could not reach the level of the strongest actor in history. Now this booklet in front of him, the fourth performing art, was the last shackle for him to break through and become the strongest actor in history in one fell swoop. It was a crazy method that had never appeared in the entire history of the world of performing arts. Through the complete resonance of the soul and the body, one's soul and body would be completely hypnotized. After completely understanding the script, one would create a complete world in one's mind, not only including the past and present lives of the character that one was playing, but also the past and present lives of the other characters. Under the camera, one would become the master of the world. It was similar to the method that Luli used to hypnotize him to become the best actor last time, but it was of a higher level. It was to completely hypnotize oneself to become the character in the play, turning acting into real life. Qin Guang took a deep breath and slowly flipped open the stairway to heaven. The strongest best actor in history had finally passed the most primitive stage of accumulation and taken the most important step. Chapter 576. This, the fourth performing art, was not so much a method of acting, but an extreme method of self-hypnosis. The accumulation of the previous 99 books meant that Qin Guang, who wanted to practice the painting volume, needed to complete the external practice in advance, so that his body could reach the standard to stimulate the internal force. At this time he had spent almost 100 years accumulating the knowledge of the three performing art methods to the extreme, so that he could master the unprecedented performing art through the school of the world, produced by the heavenly Holy Grail. He did not expect that it would take him almost 50 years to study this thin book. Different from the previous 99 books, the last School of the World seemed thin, but its content was far richer than the previous 10 books. Every small detail mentioned in the book was a gem, and only with great effort could he make any progress. Now he finally understood the so-called, "the stupid bird flies early," and he was especially stupid, so he had to be very early. Counting on his fingers, he finally understood why no one had been able to try the so-called School of the World so far. Thinking about himself, it took him 100 years to prepare, another 50 years to take the last step, and then there was intensive training in death combat. Even if his talent as an actor was really terrible, if it were an ordinary actor, it would take at least 30 or 40 years of learning. How long was an actor's normal acting career? They wanted to learn this move, but before they could even learn it, they were already halfway into their coffins. Therefore, people often said that old actors were the accumulation of life experience and life principles brought by the growth of age. It could indeed make the acting skills of an old actor who maintained a good mental state become more and more exquisite under the tempering of time. For example, Nanny Rong in Princess Pearl, which was once popular all over the country. After so many years, she, a supporting character who didn't have many scenes, was like a pot of old wine becoming more and more remembered. In contrast, many people couldn't remember what the real villain, the Empress, looked like. In short, no one could learn what Qin Guang was doing. Even if he went out and restored the fourth performing art, in its original form, no one could learn it, because they did not have the time and energy to do so. As he slowly closed the book, he closed his eyes and rested for a long time. Then he let out a long breath as if he was a martial artist in a state of enlightenment. A turbid breath escaped from his mouth. The fourth performing arts in his hand, however, did not vanish into nothingness like the previous 99 books. Instead, it slowly floated in the air and collapsed into glittering words that darted toward his skull. Qin Guang was caught off guard by this sudden change. He stood on the spot with his mouth wide open. His eyes were also widened as he looked at those bizarre things drilling into his mind, but he couldn't do anything about it. After maintaining this state for 3 days and 3 nights, it finally came to an end. Qin Guang shook his head, feeling a little swollen. He casually tried to recall, and the entire book, Part 4, appeared in his mind. He could even easily recall the pages, lines, and words. Furthermore, it wasn't as simple as just memorizing the book. Every bit of correct understanding he had when he was studying the book also appeared in his mind, as if it had been engraved into his mind. I finally experienced the true might of the force-feeding method of teaching. Qin Guang was filled with emotion. This was the correct way to open the transcending heaven Holy Grail. The last time he entered the Sea of Moments was just a beautiful accident. The overly high level of the 8th realm of the divine immortal heavenly cup made the language master training from last time unconventional, just like the first time he entered the Sea of Moments. This time, the acting world was the normal state that the realm of the divine immortal heavenly cup should be in. It was much stronger than the pure physical training of the divine immortal heavenly cup. It could even force this kind of knowledge into his brain. Basic training complete. Intensive training about to begin. As the electronic voice finished, the mirror in front of him gradually grew larger, turning into a square surface that was 200 meters in length and width. It stood upright on the ground like a giant screen. What is it this time? Qin Guang looked over curiously. The next moment, a familiar music suddenly rang in his ears. Looking at the majestic and domineering lion roaring in the golden film, Qin Guang was puzzled. Wasn't this the standard opening of a movie produced by the now-defunct Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer? More than 4 hours later, as the ending song of Gone with the Wind came to an end, Qin Guang finally felt the benefits of this intensive training. It was actually watching a movie. He was overjoyed. The heavens really have the virtue of cherishing life. They know that I'm really too bored. That's right, as the current generation's best actor, how could he only focus on himself? He had to observe and speculate about other people's works. Only by watching and thinking more could he continuously consolidate his acting skills. Even if the actors in the movie might not have the acting skills of his current world-class actor level, every top-class actor would always have a highlight in their life. In these highlight moments, these actors would display their skills to the extreme, and they might not lose to Qin Guang's world-class actor. It was just a pity that their highlight moments could not be maintained forever. Intensive training completion rate, 1 in 30,000. He had to watch a total of 30,000 movies? It was a small case. Strange, are there so many classic movies in the world? Qin Guang muttered. Forget it. Anyway, the intensive training was just watching movies, so there was no difference watching more or less. Wait, what was this? Looking at the terrifying 5 words in front of him, Qin Guang felt that his worldview was about to collapse. Fuchin Mountain Dwelling. Anyone who had seen it would understand that this was an ultimate masterpiece that was jointly starred by several best actors, dedicated to the vast number of movie fans. It was a super godly film that could refresh the audience's worldview, outlook on life, and sexual orientation. Qin Guang only hated himself for jinxing it. Why did he have to question the number of classic movies? Now, the second movie was such a heavy-tasting masterpiece, and it also set the tone for the rest of his miserable life. There was nothing more painful than this in life. As a new top-class Best Actor, his understanding of the performing arts had reached a height that ordinary people could not reach, but he had to endure the torture of terrible movies to the extreme. Unlike ordinary audiences who could leave if they were unhappy, they could also play with their mobile phones, read novels, chat on WeChat, or simply click across in the upper right corner of the screen. Although he was already disgusted to death, he still had to stare at the huge private screen in front of him with his eyes wide open. The feeling was so sour that it was difficult to write down. What was originally thought to be a leisurely movie trip turned into a painful torture of going to heaven and going to hell one moment. He finally deeply understood the true meaning of the so-called intensive training. One moment he watched a classic movie trying to figure out how others played the role, and the next moment he watched an extremely terrible movie to see what a terrible performance looked like and take warning. Fuchin Mountain Dwelling was just an appetizer, Villain Angel, Where Are We Going Dad, and so on were just desserts. The most terrible thing was that some unknown director from some unknown country took a deceptive script that he wrote and found a group of unknown actors to shoot all kinds of strange bad movies. There were many bad Chinese movies, and English movies were also on par. Spanish, German, Italian, and other small languages could not escape. After all, there were only a few good classic movies. More than half of the 30,000 movies were these bad movies. The Heavenly Holy Grail's intensive training was to let Qin Guang experience all the bad movies in the world and see through the world of mortals before he could become a Buddha. But in the end he still made it. During this period he fainted a few times, and even the Holy Grail's emotional blockade was almost broken by him. When he heard the words, "Intensive training is over, the death battle is about to begin," he actually felt a sense of relief. This intensive training was clearly the most fatal thing. The towering mirror in front of him slowly moved again. It fell down bit by bit like a pool of water on the ground. First round of the death battle, participate in to live, and play the role of Su Fugue. As the electronic voice fell, the mirror on the ground gradually lit up like a 3D projection. Characters, equipment, and even houses slowly appeared on the mirror. This was a movie set that had been completely replicated. The young old strategist was yelling loudly. The equally young Gu Guangtou still had some hair back then, but his hairline was slightly higher. He was holding a script and arguing fiercely with a group of people in a corner. This scene looked vaguely illusory, but the effect was already far better than all the 3D projections in the world so far. Filming is about to begin. Please completely overlap with the main actor and complete the filming at the same time. The complexity of the Heavenly Holy Grail's world was far greater than the Heavenly Holy Grail's. The electronic voice of the Heavenly Holy Grail was also much more diligent than before, and the training instructions were also more detailed and accurate. Qin Guang immediately understood the training mode of this third round of the death battle. It was to let him personally participate in the filming process of these classic movies. Just like in some variety shows, he had to face an oncoming wall and put his body in an appropriate position to pass through the various holes in the wall. If he failed, he would crash into the water. Of course, what he was going to do now was much more complicated than passing through the wall, but the principle was the same. Standing forward, his body completely overlapped with Gu Guangtou's. Feeling the shimmering projection floating around him, Qin Guang waited solemnly. He had trained his soldiers for 100 years and now was the time. That's right, what did death mean? 5 minutes later, lying on the ground and feeling his broken body slowly reforming like the liquid robot in Terminator, Qin Guang deeply understood what the word death meant. If he made a slight mistake in his performance, perhaps his expression, perhaps his body language, or perhaps his eyebrows were not raised high enough, he would explode without any warning. It was as if a bomb had detonated in his stomach and he had really exploded. If I die like this, I might as well find a gun and shoot my head. 1 death, 99 deaths remaining. When the number of deaths reaches 100, the Redeemer will truly die. Qin Guang felt a chill down his spine. It seemed that the Heavenly Holy Grail was serious this time. Chapter 577. Large drops of cold sweat rolled down from his temples. Seeing the 3D projection beside him gradually dim, Qin Guang's rapid breathing gradually calmed down. It was too scary. It was like a nightmare. It was only the first scene of To Live, but he made 8 NGs and blew up 8 times. In the beginning he was still in a very casual state when he acted as Gubaldi's highlight. After all, he thought that Gubaldi's acting skills at that time were still in the budding stage, and could not be compared to him who had already mastered his world-class acting skills. However, the cruel reality hit him hard, and made him realize that no matter how rich his theoretical knowledge was, It was just a castle in the air without the test of practical experience. Performing arts is both acting and life. Acting was like life and life was like acting. Garibaldi might have been immature when he played Su Fugue, but when he brought out the state of living in the film, it was not compromised at all. When Qin Guang tried to use a relaxed and casual attitude to completely replicate it, he would always make some big or small mistakes in his performance. Unlike other people who had the chance to make a NG after making a mistake, Qin Guang, who was now in a life-and-death battle, would blow up as soon as he made a mistake from the inside out. He died miserably. Suddenly, he did not even have time to fear death, and his whole body turned into countless pieces on the ground. It was finally over. But this was only the first scene of the first movie. At this moment, Qin Guang truly felt the threat of death in the heavenly Holy Grail. Was 99 chances to come back to life really a lot? At first he really thought it was a lot, but in the blink of an eye he had used up 8 times. He did not even know how many more movies he had to act in. In this situation where he could not see how long the road ahead of him was, every time he faked his death, he was one step closer to real death. Qin Guang did not think that the heavenly Holy Grail was joking with him. After a short while, a new set projection appeared in front of him. It was the second scene of To Live. The detestable heavenly Holy Grail did not give him any time to breathe. Warning. Warning. The second scene is about to begin. Redeemer, please overlap with the main actor and participate in the filming at the same time. Otherwise you'll die in 10 seconds. Qin Guang did not feel tired at all, but he felt a sense of exhaustion all over his body. Gritting his teeth, he forced himself to stand up, moving to stand completely overlapping with Gu Guangtu's projection. Taking a deep breath, his expression became serious. His tired eyes slowly regained focus, and his face no longer had the slightest bit of carelessness. Slowly closing his eyes, when Qin Guang opened them again, his eyes were filled with the unique gaze of Su Fugue, a person who had lived in a specific period of time and was currently experiencing a different kind of tragic fate. There was a hint of stubbornness in his murky eyes, and under the stubbornness, there was also a hint of weakness. Behind the weakness, there was a hint of anger and unwillingness. Qin Guang successfully substituted himself into the world of To Live. He became Su Fugue, but 15 minutes later he still exploded. Lying on the ground in a daze, Qin Guang felt his face slowly sticking back together under the tearing pain. He was completely at a loss. Impossible, I've already perfectly captured the state of the world faction. There can't be any problems with my acting. Why did it explode so suddenly? You have to give me a convincing reason. He could not understand it no matter how hard he thought about it. But in this world within a cup, no one could give him an answer. Although the heavenly Holy Grail was considerate, it was not considerate enough to tell him exactly what he did wrong. The emotionless heavenly Holy Grail's logic in judging success or failure was extremely simple. If it was right, it was right, and if it was wrong, it was wrong. As for why it was right or wrong, only the Redeemer himself could figure it out. In short, if he exploded, there must be something wrong, or else he wouldn't have exploded. The world within a cup of the heavenly Holy Grail would definitely not make a mistake. After another 5 explosions, Qin Guang finally managed to get through this scene. Although this explosion was slightly less than the previous one, he was even more nervous. He had faked his death for a total of 14 times, and only managed to shoot 2 scenes of To Live. He was terrified and broke out in cold sweat. Qin Guang didn't know how many scenes there were in this movie, but he was sure that if he didn't find the problem, he would definitely die in To Live. The 3D projection moved slowly, finally giving him some time to recover. Qin Guang's mind was frantically trying to figure out what the problem was. That's right, it must be that my acting skills are still at the theoretical level. As long as I continue to strengthen my practical training, the situation will definitely slowly improve. After about 10 sets of scenes, Qin Guang beat his chest and stamped his feet. What practice makes perfect, it's all a lie. He had already shot 10 sets of scenes, but why did he still explode without any warning? He still exploded several times in one scene. Although the frequency gradually decreased from an average of 5 to 3 or 4 times, the situation was still like drinking poison to quench his thirst, and he was slowly walking towards death. After another 5 scenes, he had already used the number of deaths 55 times. At this time, Azure, who had been pretending to be a mirror, couldn't sit still anymore. Hey! Little brat, don't cause trouble. Can you be more serious? I'm not joking with you. You're really going to die. Qin Guang pinched his nose. Nonsense, do I need you to remind me? I don't want to die either, alright? But I really don't know what's going on. I'm already very serious and I'm even using all my strength. Azure said anxiously, Don't just focus on using brute force. Think of a way, use ingenuity, alright? Qin Guang spread his hands. Am I not using ingenuity? I've already practiced the fourth type of acting art, the world school, to the extreme, alright? If this isn't ingenuity, then what is it? I'm not going to talk to you anymore, I have to get back to work. Qin Guang waved his hand. He had thought that Azure would always be so insensitive, but now it seemed that she also had times when she was afraid. Wait, the more she was afraid, didn't it mean that the old man was really in a bad situation? *CK, the more he thought about it, the more despair he felt. Even Lioli was afraid. Another 10 sets of shots were shot, a total of 25 explosions, a total of 80 explosions, and there were only 19 chances left. Azure was completely unable to settle down. When Qin Guang was in the process of gluing again, she jumped out and impatiently communicated with Qin Guang. I really can't. If this goes on, everyone will be finished. Seriously, if I go too far, you can't protect my life. Qin Guang asked doubtfully. Azure was silent for a moment and then said with a bitter smile, I could have, but recently I've used all my divine power in other areas and I can't move it back for a while. I didn't expect that a mere acting world would be so difficult. This Empress has miscalculated. Unfortunately, this Empress knows nothing about this matter, or else I could give you some advice. Now I can only rely on you. Qin Guang sucked in a breath of cold air. Chapter 578. How about this? I will use my divine power to buy you 2 hours of free time. Think about it carefully. Do your best. I'm counting on you. Don't let me down. With that, Lioli's voice gradually disappeared, and the projection on the ground also dimmed. Lioli used her remaining divine power to interfere with the training process of the world in the cup, and forced Qin Guang to pause. Fortunately, a strand of her soul had fused with the heavenly Holy Grail, and she had transformed into the mirror in the world in the cup. Otherwise she wouldn't even be able to pause. Qin Guang sat on the spot like a stone Buddha. Facing the threat of death for the first time, he truly valued the so-called 3,000 worlds test of the heavenly Holy Grail. This time, Lioli couldn't protect him, he could only rely on himself. He scratched his head furiously, thinking hard. What was the problem? Was I not proficient enough in the world school? That was obviously impossible. He didn't learn from nothing but through the accumulation of knowledge, and then with great difficulty comprehending the world school of performing arts. In other words, he first comprehended the Tao and then put it into practice. Up until now he had acted in more than 20 sets of scenes, and every time he was completely focused, not daring to slack off. He should have been completely familiar with the routines of this art of performing arts. He even felt that he had lived in the original work, and perfectly interpreted the artistic conception and life that the director and the original author wanted to portray. Even some of the deeper meanings that the author wrote that ordinary people didn't understand were filled in after he comprehended the entire worldview. Wait a minute. Qin Guang suddenly realized that he seemed to have grasped the problem. He realized that he had been going in the wrong direction from the beginning. The Holy Grail required him to completely replicate Baldi Ji's performance when he played the role of Su Fugue, not to replicate another Su Fugue. He didn't want to act as Su Fugue, but the current Su Fugue Go. He shouldn't be constructing Su Fugue's world, but Go Baldi's world. Go Baldi's acting skills, situation and other factors when he acted in To Live, was the worldview that belonged to Go Baldi, and that was what he really needed. At this moment Qin Guang felt enlightened. So it turned out that his acting might be formidable, but he had gone off topic. From the very beginning he had been heading in the wrong direction. Of course he was wrong again and again. After waking up from the shock, Qin Guang stood up straight. At the same time, the 3D projection on the ground gradually appeared again. It turned out that 2 hours had passed while he was in deep thought. Lu Li's voice was filled with extreme exhaustion. How is it? Have you found the reason? Qin Guang nodded lightly and with extreme confidence, he overlapped with Gu Guangtou again. And I understand. Watch me next. Death combat completion 1%. Comprehended drama within drama. As the 3D projection's old strategist shouted the word finished, in a disappointed and relieved tone, Qin Guang's terrifying To Live journey finally came to a successful end. The post-production editing and special effects obviously had nothing to do with him. He sighed heavily. He was so excited that he was drenched in sweat. Thank God, he had come to his senses at the critical moment and finally found the right direction. But even so, he still had to leave the scene twice in the entire filming process. Maybe it was because of the fatigue from the continuous filming, or maybe it was because he had read too much into Gu Guangtou. Until now, Qin Guang only had 17 chances to revive. Perhaps sensing his fatigue, the Holy Grail gave him half an hour of rest after filming, allowing him to completely separate himself from Gu Guangtuo's worldview. For the second film, Qin Guang had to act as Marlon Brando in The Godfather 1. The entire process was perfect and he did not explode once. For the third film, Leslie Chung in Farewell My Concubine, he exploded twice and was only left with 15 chances to revive. The number of revivals was decreasing. Even if he had found a way, the threat of death was getting closer and closer. Only then did Qin Guang finally understand the true meaning of death combat. Different from the three performing arts, Performance School, Experience School and Method School, his brand new World School had another drawback. After self-hypnosis, he constructed a complete worldview which was too grand and realistic. It was difficult to get into character and even more difficult to get out of character. If he did not go through this continuous crazy training of getting into character and out of character, it was easy to not be able to get out of character in time after getting into character and live in character. This death training was indeed to improve Qin Guang's proficiency in the World School of Acting, but after the first film, To Live, the remaining 99 films only had one purpose, and that was for him to master the technique of getting out of character. In The World and the Cup, where emotions were sealed, through this seemingly stupid and boring repetitive training, he was able to continuously form a state that was more at his fingertips. Otherwise, when he went out, he would be completely stuck in character and unable to get out. If that happened, he would rather die than live. According to normal development, 99 chances of resurrection corresponded to the shooting of 100 films, which might be just enough. But because Qin Guang began to go astray, there were only 15 chances left when he only shot the third film. Liuli gradually became nervous, but she did not dare to make a sound and disturb Qin Guang in the slightest. Now, although Qin Guang was only acting, the situation was getting more and more serious. Even Lu Ming, who was in Yunqing, felt the heavy atmosphere. Her two huge flower leaves were clenched tightly like fists. Although she did not like Qin Guang at this time, she also silently whispered in her heart, "Qin Guang, do your best. If Qin Guang really died in the cup, it would really be over." At this time, the pressure on Qin Guang's shoulders was not small. He did not need to think about others and he did not want to die. Some people crumbled under the pressure while others performed better than usual. Qin Guang used to think that he was the former, but when he really came to this life and death juncture, he found that his potential was actually stronger than he thought. Humans just couldn't live too comfortably. They had to push themselves a little bit to find out where their potential and limits were. Qin Guang, who had spent 3 years in university in a daze at this moment, seemed to have returned to the state of the last sprint 2 or 3 months before the college entrance examination, when he said that he would concentrate and not be distracted. In the blink of an eye, dozens of years had passed in the mountains. Among the 100 films, some films were shot quickly and the shooting time was only 2 months, but some were so long that it made people's hair stand on end, and it often took several years. On average, the shooting time for each film was about 3 or 4 months. After the influence of the 100 films, it had taken nearly 30 years. Of course, this was an absolute amount of time. Qin Guang, who had never stopped resting, had no concept of time at all. He only cared about carefully and attentively playing the role that he needed to play. At the same time, he was counting with his fingers how many more chances he had left before he would die. His concentration potential had been completely squeezed out. Every time he faked his death, his condition would improve a little. The increasing mental pressure and the increasingly grim situation actually made his condition even more perfect. By the time he died for the 98th time, he had gone through another 5 films before exploding once. By the time he died for the 99th time, and the next step would be the endless abyss, he had even forgotten about his fear of death. He was only left with absolute calmness and he went through the last 10 films in one go. Even Lu Minghua, who had always disliked Qin Guang, sighed and said to Liuli, "This guy has really exceeded my expectations. In the past he didn't have such a state of mind, did he? He was much more impetuous than he is now." Liuli, whose soul had turned into a mirror and was immersed in the world of acting, was a bit slow to react in the body of the Emperor in Cloud City, but her eyes were already full of tears. She nodded slightly and said, "This is probably the level that he really wants to pursue." Watching the time and space tunnel in front of her gradually open, and the soul that had turned into a mirror was slowly released, Liuli wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes with her arm calmly and put on an angry expression. Light swirled and Qin Guang appeared in Cloud City again. Before he had the time to show off his magnificent feat of passing the last 10 stages in a row, Liuli had already spat all over his face. "Are you stupid or what? Can't you understand such a simple logic? You've been blinded for nothing for 80 times. Are you trying to scare me to death? Idiot. 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 What a loser who can't accomplish anything but spoils everything. Really cursed. Qin Guang was losing ground again and again. Even the emperor had spit? And why is your spit so strong? It hurts when it hits my face. Fortunately, my face is thick and I can take it. With a shake of his body, he returned to the outside world. His hands were still held tightly by Jin and Jiang, who were sending him to the private room of Heaven Harmony No. 1. Qin Guang slightly narrowed his eyes. It was time to show his real skills. Come out. Qin Yu's world. Chapter 579. The overseas female elite was currently at the stage of starting her own business in China. She was a little annoyed by Bai Hua's pursuit and had no interest in Bai Hua at the moment. This person's personality was skewed. He liked women and his standard was Jiang Yage. Most importantly, he didn't have a penis. The worldview of the character he was playing instantly formed in his mind. As he was being pushed forward, he gently closed his eyes. When he opened them again, he was a completely different person. Some of the impulses unique to men quickly disappeared from his mind as he completely immersed himself in the role. The world-class acting skills were so domineering. Okay, but I'm not good at singing. You guys sing, I'll just sit here for a while. Qin Guang said with a smile. How is that possible? Beautiful people can't sing badly. Qin Yu, you're too humble. Jin Shirue wanted to matchmake the two of them, so her attitude was as gentle as possible. Although Jiang Yage wasn't as cunning as Jin Shirue, she also felt that it was strange. Perhaps she and Qin Yu hit it off. When she first saw her, she was attracted to Qin Guang because of her beautiful smile. Now she was hugging his waist and sticking close to his body. Even though they were strangers for the first time, she couldn't feel any awkwardness or discomfort in her heart. Usually, she wasn't even this affectionate to other female artists. Forget it, don't think too much about it. Maybe this is what it means to hit it off. No wonder Brother Bai Hua fell in love with her at first sight. She really has a magical charm. Lin Jingwei, who was following behind everyone to Tianhe Room 1, was the most flustered. When Qin Guang's body stiffened, he already wanted to turn around and run. But the sudden turn of events made him shiver. It seemed like Brother Guang had changed into a different person. What's going on? His voice was clearly the same as before without the slightest change, but why did it feel like he was a different person when he spoke with the same voice and tone without any obvious change? What's wrong? Am I hallucinating? As the only person who knew what was going on, Lin Jingwei's uneasiness that he couldn't get rid of disappeared inexplicably. It even gave Lin Jingwei the illusion that the person here today was not his brother Guang at all, but Qin Yu, who should not exist in this world. This was 2F** King scary. Lin Jingwei shuddered silently and followed her in. He greeted the other girls in the room with a stiff expression, then sat alone in the corner and looked at Qin Yu, who was surrounded by many girls like stars surrounding the moon. It's over. Brother Guang has been cross-dressing for too long. It has really opened up a whole new world hidden in his heart. At this time, Qin Guang was so skillful in the crowd of women, chatting with them casually. Everything looked so harmonious, natural and casual. It was as if he was born to appear in this crowd of young and beautiful girls, chatting with them about skincare, beauty, fashion trends, or the recently trending anime and teen idols. Lin Jingwei felt that things were getting worse and worse. He couldn't understand how Brother Guang, who was clearly not interested in these things, did it. The scariest thing was that Brother Guang obviously didn't know anything, but he could boast about what others said as if he was really a professional. Oh my god. Bai Hua didn't know how Lin Jingwei felt as if he had seen a ghost. Instead, he quietly pulled him. Finally, I managed to keep Miss Chen. I was a little too impatient before, but it's okay. We can take it slow. Jingwei, tell me about her usual hobbies. I think she has a wide range of interests. Lin Jingwei shook his head blankly. I'm not too sure. What can I say? Play Dota? Drive? Pick up girls? Play darts? Play the piano? Maybe she knows ventriloquism? Forget it, it's better not to say too much. On the other side, Jin Shirue felt that Lin Jingwei and Bai Hua were left alone at the side after coming in, so she tried to bring the topic in the direction of matchmaking Bai Hua and Qin Yu. Qin Yu, which school did you study in? Brother Bai Hua is a genius graduate from Cambridge. The two of you must have a lot in common. Qin Guang, who was completely in the zone, smiled disdainfully. Our Yale and Cambridge are not particularly friendly schools. Lin Jingwei, who was drinking Coke, nearly choked to death. The Coke that went into his nostrils was so sour that tears and snot flowed out. Oh my god, Brother Guang, you're invincible. can't you stop bragging? What Yale? I graduated from Coconut Milk University. Bai Hua smiled, oh so it's Yale. I always feel that I hit it off with her. Lin Jingwei covered his nose and snorted. Not to mention Yale, even if Qin Yu said she was from Western Pacific University, Brother Bai would be able to boast about it. Seeing that her first plan didn't work, Jin Shirui came up with another plan. Then how do you plan to start your business? In my opinion, although there are many new companies emerging in the domestic IT industry, the competition in the entire industry is extremely fierce. It has become a Red Sea. It's better to try to start with some more solid traditional industries and try to explore the overall environment in our country. This is just my personal opinion. I don't know much about business, so please don't laugh at me. Bai Hua, who had been eavesdropping on their conversation, was so touched that his eyes were brimming with tears. All these years of treating Shirui like a sister were not in vain. At the critical moment, you still know how to help me. If this matter succeeds, I will definitely remember your kindness for the rest of my life. You're much more reliable than Jingwei. Jiang Yage, who was next to her, also understood Jin Shirui's thoughts. She smiled and egged her on, I think so too. Oh right, Brother Bai, isn't Chancheng a big company in the energy industry? Why don't you go to their company as a consultant? That's pretty good. How about this, Brother Bai, why don't I help you? I'll think of a way to help you get into Chancheng. Jiang Yage patted her chest heavily. As she spoke, her body was still pressed against Chen Guang's body, and her thighs were tightly pressed against his. Lin Jingwei became nervous again. With his brother Guang's personality, was he going to rock the boat? In the end, Chen Guang didn't move at all. He didn't even feel the slightest discomfort. He just smiled and thanked Jiang Yage. Then he looked at Bai Hua, who was anxiously looking at him. I originally considered Tianqing, but I still think it's more comfortable to rely on myself. Mr. Bai and my sisters, I appreciate your kindness. After being rejected again, Jin Shirui and Jiang Yage were a little disappointed. Bai Hua, on the other hand, was disappointed but felt that it was reasonable. Everyone had come to Inua to sing. Besides, other than Jin Shirui and Jiang Yage, there were also 2 or 3 second-generation singers in the room. They were either playing around or had seriously released singles. After chatting for a while, Qin Guang finally half-egged and half-forced him to take the microphone. Jin Shirui and Jiang Yage had a good plan. First, they would let Qin Yu sing a solo song. Then they would pick Hiroshima Love. Naturally, they would create an opportunity for Bai Hua to sing a duet with her. Although Bai Hua wasn't a professional singer, he was still pretty good. Lin Jingwei silently looked at Qin Guang, who had picked up the microphone with a helpless look on his face. After holding back for a long time, he still couldn't pull out the wet wipes from his trouser pocket and stuff them into his ears. He can't really sing, can he? Lin Jingwei thought. However, when Qin Guang opened his mouth, Lin Jingwei's heart calmed down. Fortunately, the singer hadn't been replaced. This was the real Brother Guang. Although his voice was as beautiful as a fairy's, his unexplainable sense of music was undeniable. As always, he was off-key and circling the stage 360 degrees. Well, seeing this scene, there was no need to sing Hiroshima Love. Jin Shirui silently deleted the song list and didn't dare to mention it again. Everyone felt that God was fair. He had given Qin Yu such a tall, beautiful, elegant, and graduated from Yale. Yet he had given her a good voice. It was too cruel to others. Qin Yu sings so well. Bai Hua cupped his hands in front of his chest, but his face was full of enchantment. Lin Jingwei shrank back. Damn, it felt like Brother Bai Hua was basically a useless person now. You don't even have your principles. Seeing that he had more or less dealt with it, Qin Guang pretended to look at the time and was ready to leave. Jiang Yage's eyes were sharp. Yo, Sister Qin Yu, are you using a popcorn phone? Don't many people in the US use apples? Qin Guang didn't have the slightest discomfort. He elegantly said, I don't like to use the same things as others. Alright, it's getting late. I really have to go. I have a flight to Beijing tomorrow morning, so I can't sleep too late. With this reason, no one could make him stay. Although Jin Shirui felt regretful, she still struggled and said, Then let Brother Bai Hua send you. It's not safe for a girl to go out so late at night. Qin Guang waved his hand and refused. No need, no need. I drove here myself. You guys sing, don't send me. On the other side, Bai Hua still didn't give up. He braced himself and wanted to stand up. Qin Guang looked at him coldly. His eyes hid a deep sense of annoyance. Lin Jingwei coughed violently, waking Bai Hua from his stupor. He secretly blamed himself for being too impatient. He had already made her unhappy, and if he continued to pester her shamelessly, it would only make her feel more and more disgusted. Forget it, he decided to leave it at that for today. At least he had achieved his most basic goal. Then Lin Jingwei sisters, shall we say goodbye? Solomon, you look cuter than on TV. Qin Guang covered his mouth and smiled. Then he turned around and walked away. This series of small actions made the image of a strong woman who liked cute little girls jump out of her skin. Lin Jingwei was shocked. Brother Guang's acting was godly. At this time he finally understood the reason for Qin Guang's sudden change. Brother Guang must have had an explosion in his universe and inexplicably awakened his acting talent. A natural best actress. Damn best actress. And so it was born. At this time Jiang Yage put down the microphone and stood up. She said goodbye to her sisters and said that she was going to order some drinks. After walking out of Tianhe Room 1, Jiang Yage went straight to the public restroom. Standing in front of the restroom, she hesitated for about 3 seconds. Then she knocked on the door of the men's restroom and shouted in a low voice, "Is there anyone inside?" Mop the floor. There was no movement. She rushed in. The doors of the 9 cubicles were wide open and they were empty. Jiang Yage turned around and walked out of the men's restroom. She went straight to the women's restroom next door. This time she didn't pretend to be cleaning and directly opened the door. All the private rooms in Inori had their own private restroom. This public restroom was indeed not used. Out of the 12 stalls in the women's restroom, only one was tightly shut. The sound of running water and rustling could be heard coming from inside. Jiang Yage bent down and looked at the shoes through the gap below. She had a look of realization on her face. When she was sticking to this guy just now, she smelled this familiar scent. There was a faint musk, or perhaps it was more appropriate to say that it was a man's scent. I always felt that there was something fishy about you, and I was right. No wonder I felt that you were kind when I first saw you. No wonder I felt that you were cheap when you smiled just now. I thought that I had fallen in love with a woman. It scared me so much. But if this is you, then it all makes perfect sense. Your acting is a little too overbearing. It's really similar. I've never seen anyone act more like you. If I hadn't found your popcorn at the critical moment and confirmed my thoughts, I would have let you run away. But you've finally spoken your heart in front of me. My hot blood didn't flow in vain. You must have been touched by me. You still like me, right? Qin Guang. Let's see where you can run this time. Chapter 580. Jiang Yage didn't like to think too much about things, but it didn't mean that she was stupid. She just didn't want to spend her mind on things that she didn't care about. For a girl like her, the real strength wasn't the messy reasoning in her mind, but her intuition. She had her intuition first, and then used it as a starting point to deduce all the way. Only then did she completely confirm the fact that Qin Yu was Qin Guang's impersonation. In this regard, Jin Shiyue wasn't as good as her. In fact, it was quite a mess. The safest place for Qin Guang to change was, of course, in the second private room, but Sister Hua wasn't in the mood to wait for him. She finished his makeup, threw him a bottle of makeup remover and left quickly. After coming out of Tianhe number 1, Qin Guang didn't think too much. He just wanted to change back into men's clothes as soon as possible. As for why he chose the women's restroom, cough cough cough. Those who understood. Unfortunately, there was no one inside, but he didn't feel regretful. Instead, he went into the stall and quickly changed his clothes. High-end clubs like Inu didn't focus on customer flow. The employees also had their own restroom. This public restroom was sparsely populated, so Qin Guang wasn't worried about being seen outside. He heard the door open halfway, but he didn't think much of it. People would leave when they came in to use the restroom. By the time he finished removing his makeup, the person would have already left. Sure enough, after a while he heard the door open again. The person should have left. He didn't know that this was Jiang Yage's careful disguise. Finally, he removed most of the makeup on his face. Then he stuffed the wig and unisex shirt into his bag and carefully checked the front camera of his phone. There was no sign of makeup on his face. He smiled with satisfaction and was ready to leave this damn place. He listened carefully for about 10 seconds, and when he was sure that there was no one else in the women's restroom, he opened the door boldly. Just as he was about to walk out, he was shocked by a certain person who was looking at him with her hands on her hips and a sneer. He shook his head, thinking that he was hallucinating. Then he narrowed his eyes and opened them again. The person was still there, looking at him with deep meaning in her eyes. Qin Guang took a step back, then closed the door with a backhand. Impossible. This was impossible. This was an illusion. It must be an illusion. I must have opened the door the wrong way. I'll be fine if I do it again. Then he carefully opened the door a little bit. Jiang Yage, who had been blocking the door with her hands on her hips, was already standing at the edge of the door. She tilted her head and stared at him meaningfully with her big eyes. This was not a dream, nor was it an illusion. This was King real. Stop hiding. You're not dreaming. It's me, Jiang Yage said. Qin Guang's mouth twitched. What a coincidence. Why are you in the men's toilet? Jiang Yage glanced at the bag he was trying to hide behind his back and said with a sneaky smile, "This is the women's room. You should also hide it. I saw your LV bag." Qin Guang took a deep breath and suddenly looked behind her with a horrified expression. Look, there's a ghost in the mirror. Then he fiercely opened the door, planning to escape. Unexpectedly, Jiang Yage had already seen through his plot. She immediately opened her arms and held the cubicle door from both sides. You want to run? Do you believe that I won't tell Bai Hua about you pretending to be Qin? Qin Guang hesitated for 10 seconds. He carefully weighed Jiang Yage's character in his heart and came to a despairing conclusion. She could really do such a heartless and wicked thing. Fine, I won't run anymore. Let's see what she wants to do. I'll be stabbed if I stick out my head, and I'll be stabbed if I stick out my head. Do whatever you want. I'll let you do whatever you want. Bumping into her head-on was really bad luck. Even if it was Jin Shirui who bumped into him, it would be better. So, I won't run. Tell me, what do you want? It's all up to you, okay? Qin Guang sighed. He was like a piece of meat on the chopping board. Jiang Yage's big eyes turned, and one clever idea after another appeared in her mind. This was a heaven-sent opportunity for her to grab hold of his blunt weakness. If she didn't make good use of it, she would be letting herself down. Look at you pretending to be a gentleman in front of me all day long, but you must have at least masturbated in front of me countless times. You know that you can eat your fill and the whole family won't starve, but you put me halfway up the mountain and tormented me. As a person, you can't be so selfish. Jiang Yage was very proud of herself. In fact, she had selectively neglected one thing. The truly selfish person might be herself. She understood why Qin Guang would dress as a girl and pretend to be Qin Yu. But her subconscious was avoiding this question. She was very clear that Qin Guang had made such a big sacrifice and risked being exposed. He dressed as a girl to charm Bai Hua. It could only be because he had fallen in love with Jin Shirui. He longed to make the act with Jin Shirui real, so he used this extreme method to eliminate a strong competitor. And now he had succeeded. When she confirmed that Qin Guang was Qin Yu, Jiang Yage completely understood. But she forced herself to be immersed in the joy of finding out his embarrassment, deliberately forgetting this possibility. Because she really couldn't accept it. I was the one who confessed, and I was the one who took the initiative. Why did you fall in love with Sister Shirui? This isn't fair to me. When the accident happened in Painting Lake, Jiang Yage was willing to give the chance to live to Jin Shirui without hesitation. But this time it was different. She could give up her life, but when it came to love, she wanted to be selfish for once. What's more, Sister Shirui didn't like him. Wouldn't it be a happy ending for everyone if he and I were together? Jiang Yage comforted herself and numbed herself. She had succeeded. Now she just wanted to do something to cut off this guy's escape route. She wanted him to understand that she was serious and not joking with him. Just as she was thinking about what to do, the door to the women's restroom was suddenly pushed open. Jiang Yage woke up with a start. Without thinking carefully, she pushed Qin Guang inside, followed by him, and locked the cubicle door from the inside. The unique clattering sound of high heels on the ground came from afar. She didn't know if it was a guest or Inua's staff, but that wasn't important. What was important was that Qin Guang and Jiang Yage were now squeezed face to face in this small cubicle. Originally, Inua's toilet cubicle was very large, but that was only relative to one person's use. Now that two people were squeezed in, it was a big problem. In fact, it wasn't that Jiang Yage couldn't force the distance between the two of them. If she wanted to, her back was against the door, and there should be at least a foot of space between their chests. But she had to be willing to do that. Qin Guang was already clinging to the water tank behind him, but he couldn't stand Jiang Yage clinging to him fiercely and hugging him tightly. His eyes widened and his mouth opened slightly. He wanted to shout and ask Jiang Yage what she wanted to do. However, Jiang Yage quickly reached out to cover his mouth and shushed him softly. Then she tiptoed and put her mouth to his ear. Don't be agitated. If someone hears it, it'll be all over. Sister Shirui and I will be in the headlines. Qin Guang was shocked, and a creepy news headline popped up in his mind. Two women fighting for their husbands, Jin Shiyue's fiancé and Jiang Yage have an affair in the toilet. This headline was too explosive. There was no need to say anything else. It was guaranteed to be on the headlines of major news media for 3 days. It would jump to the top of Weibo's trending search. Unless there was a coup in a country, there was no way it would drop. If he was a gossipy person, he wouldn't be able to resist such an exciting and explosive headline. He was really well behaved. Fine, he had to accept his fate. Once their hearts calmed down, the current situation between the two of them became particularly exciting. Although Jiang Yage had never shown herself in a sexy style, Qin Guang, who had seen her many times, knew that this girl's chest was very voluptuous. At this moment, the two of them were so close to each other that a strong sense of oppression swept over like a wave. Their ribs were pressed hard and the elasticity was amazing, but it also had a soft touch. The places where their bodies were in contact through their clothes were pressed into 2 perfect circles. From time to time they would gently move and tickle their breasts. Jiang Yage's head was resting on his shoulder, and the hot breath she exhaled was gently tickling Qin Guang's earlobe. He didn't know what kind of faint fragrance was coming out of the collar of her little silk vest and burrowing into Qin Guang's nose. Thanks to Inua's cleaning auntie, there was no smell in the bathroom at all. The smell that Qin Guang smelled was pure and free of impurities. But this was even more terrible. Earlier, when he was at the entrance of Tianhe No. 1, he had been attacked by Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage from the left and right. Later, he had suppressed his anger with his world-class acting skills. Now that he was being humiliated by Jiang Yage in front of him, how could he remain calm? Jiang Yage's face was also red. She was also shy, but she didn't have the slightest intention of backing down. She had a faint feeling that she didn't have many chances left. If she didn't take advantage of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to grab hold of his weakness and do something that he couldn't struggle against, sooner or later she would be gradually forgotten by him. It wasn't enough to just rely on her phone to send him some big shots. Feeling the sudden force in her lower abdomen, as if she had been hit by a bull's horn, Jiang Yage's face became even redder. Her eyes gradually became misty, and the hand that was hugging Qin Guang's back slowly moved down. She gently picked up the lower edge of Qin Guang's t-shirt and directly buckled it on his strong back. Qin Guang was scared out of his wits by Jiang Yage's expression at this time. He desperately lowered his voice and said, "Jiang Yage, what are you doing? There are people outside. Calm down. Don't mess around. You're just being impulsive. I'm not worthy of you at all, okay?" Qin Guang's words didn't make Jiang Yage regain the slightest bit of sobriety. She was still greedily reaching up with her hands until she touched Qin Guang's 2 shoulder blades. She exhaled and said, "I've never cared about who's worthy or not. That's not love, that's business. I've never been impulsive. From the moment you saved me, I never thought of any other possibility. You think I'm joking with you, but you don't know how serious I am. I'm not impulsive at all. I'm serious. Yes, there are people outside, so stop struggling and relax. You two-faced guy, aren't you making a lot of noise?" As Jiang Yage said that, she used a little force to push her body forward again, and her breathing became even heavier. With his body suddenly being squeezed, Qin Guang's eyes immediately widened. "I can't take it anymore." Even with the old man's 1,000 years of cultivation, it seems like he can't withstand this peerless demoness' fierce attack. Should I simply enter a world sect to save myself? Although I know this method will definitely work, but I can't bear to do it. The old man is just an ordinary person, he's not a person who can sit still. The person the old man is facing is also not an ordinary person. Jiang Yage. She's the national goddess Jiang Yage, who is famous throughout the country and the Asia Pacific. To be able to endure to this point, the old man is almost a saint. If he had to blame someone, he could only blame Qin Guang for looking at her nude photos in the past. The two of them were still wearing their clothes, but his mind had already started to uncontrollably recall those nude photos that he had seen in the past. Should I struggle for one more second? Don't. There's someone. Qin Guang made a final struggle and said in a low voice. Jiang Yage completely ignored him. "So don't make a sound. Didn't you just say that I can do whatever I want? If you don't want Bai Hua to know the secret, now immediately kiss me." "No." Qin Guang turned his head away. "If a person like me lived in ancient times, I would definitely become a legend. I might even be stronger than Lu Xiaohui. If someone hears it, it's over." At this moment, the woman in high heels seemed to have finished peeing. She padded toward the door, opened it, closed it, and disappeared. Qin Guang was dumbfounded. "Now that there's no one, you still want to deny it? Imagine if Bai Hua knew that the woman he likes is you. What kind of state would he be in?" Jiang Yage was like a female version of the little demon Tyrion, speaking in a seductive and threatening tone. But her hand did not stop stroking Qin Guang's back for even a second. She seemed to want to rub her body into Qin Guang's so that the two of them could fuse into one. Actually, I'm really a cross-dresser. Don't you mind? Qin Guang gradually lost himself. His eyes became more and more hazy, and his voice trembled as he struggled. But his voice also seemed to melt steel, becoming soft. I don't mind. I also like to see you in women's clothes. It's so beautiful. Actually, I already knew it. Do you remember? When we escaped from Disneyland, I've been holding on to the maternity dress you wore. When I have the chance, I'll get you one. I know fashion very well. It'll look better than the clothes you chose this time. Qin Guang felt that Jiang Yage had gone completely crazy. He really wanted to tell Jiang Yage, ask her what she liked about him, and he would change. Deep down, he was intoxicated by his manly instincts, but what was left of his rationality told him that he could not continue developing with Jiang Yage like this. No matter what, he was now Jin Shiyue's boyfriend on the surface, but in the dark he had slept with Zhuo Jingxi. Only God knew if he had really done that with Wenwen. Now there was another Jiang Yage. His body was not stressed at all, but the more he thought about it, the more screwed up he felt. How to suppress Jin Shiyue's matter in the future was already a headache. Adding another Jiang Yage was not just asking for trouble but jumping into magma. But in the end he could not say it. Although there were many coincidences in the development of the matter, the final result was that he had used women's clothes to make Bai Hua fall head over heels for him. If Jiang Yage really revealed it, he would not be able to raise his head in public in the future. Lin Jingwei would not be able to explain himself to Bai Hua, and the two of them would probably turn against each other. This was too heavy a responsibility to bear, and the consequences were too serious and scary. With Jiang Yage's personality, Qin Guang did not dare to bet on her being reasonable. Hurry up and kiss me or I'll get angry. Jiang Yage gave him an ultimatum. Chapter 581. Qin Guang didn't have a choice. The pressure from her body was getting heavier and the two of them were getting closer and closer. The strength of her fingers on Qin Guang's back was also getting stronger and stronger, to the point that it became a scratch with her fingertips. Qin Guang didn't feel the slightest bit of pain. Instead, he felt an inexplicable intoxication. That's right, in this narrow space with his back against the toilet tank, feeling Jiang Yage's pressure step by step, Qin Guang's willpower was quickly collapsing. Forget it, what else could he say? He took a deep breath, slowly lowered his head and slowly kissed Jiang Yage's red lips. Jiang Yage's heart was beating like thunder, her face was red like blood, and she gradually closed her eyes. Success, I finally succeeded. You cold-hearted bastard, do you really need me to do this to make you succumb? When their lips touched, Jiang Yage was so excited that her whole body trembled as if she had been electrocuted. She was completely intoxicated in this kiss, no longer thinking about the matter that had been bothering her recently. The matter between Sister Shiyue and him had been completely exposed. Originally there was a mountain between them, but now there was another mountain. The situation didn't improve because of her continuous attacks. Instead, the distance between her and Qin Guang was getting further and further. Maybe they were getting closer in WeChat, but in reality they were getting further and further apart. Jiang Yage didn't blame Jin Shiyue. At that time, Qin Guang was in a bad situation, and Jin Shiyue had made a huge sacrifice. For things to turn out like this, it could only be said that fate made a fool out of people. But I, Jiang Yage, will never admit defeat. What I want, no one can take away, I won't let anyone. She used more and more force, whether it was her hands, waist, or mouth. Her lilac tongue stretched out like a viper coming out of its hole, and fiercely pushed open Qin Guang's teeth that were originally closed together. As for Qin Guang, whether it was his mouth, his chest that was pressed against Jiang Yage's plump chest, his hands that were subconsciously hugging Jiang Yage's back, his body that was as hard as iron, or even the girl's body fragrance that was crazily rushing into his nostrils, all of these things were crazily attacking his manly instinct. In a daze, a divine voice seemed to reverberate in his mind. It was the singing of a holy angel, purifying his filthy and vulgar soul. What awaited him was not life, but heaven. People in the Jianghu would often encounter all sorts of unstoppable forces. At this time he was facing this irresistible force. Jiang Yage, who was the meat on the chopping board, was too charming. No, Jiang Yage should be the knife that chopped the meat and he himself was the meat. The blade-like Jiang Yage used her unique youthful charm to ruthlessly tear apart Qin Guang's originally weak resistance. Qin Guang's heart was bleeding and he silently thought, if there is a next life I must be a good person, but now I am sorry. His hand that was hugging Jiang Ye's body tightened and more force. Even before he himself was aware, he unconsciously reached down, and didn't know when he had grabbed Jiang Ye's buttocks. Jiang Ye moaned and she became even more shy. She took her right hand back and fiercely grabbed Qin Guang's left hand that was playing with her buttocks, and the two of them that were pressed against each other's chests also pulled apart a little. It seems that I am a little too much? Qin Guang suddenly recovered a little and was about to take his right hand back. However, Jiang Ye didn't want to stop him at all, but launched an even more violent counterattack. She actually pressed Qin Guang's left hand to her chest, and her right hand grabbed the back of Qin Guang's left hand and pressed harder, and then her lips came up again. Even though there were 2 layers of clothes between them, the real touch was not discounted at all. The exquisite elasticity burst out like holding a towel that was soaked in water and kneaded into a ball. Qin Guang would never have thought that Jiang Ye would do this. The intense kiss continued. Qin Guang, who had already let go of all resistance, began to subconsciously clench his right hand's 5 fingers, and greedily wanted to occupy the most beautiful fullness in the world. Harder. Harder. Jiang Ye suppressed her voice and said softly. As she spoke, her body began to tremble violently again, as if she had been greatly stimulated, but she still suppressed it and did not dare to make a louder sound. This was not her home but the bathroom of Inua Club. Although it was unlikely that anyone would come in again, the subconscious sense of excitement and tension lingered. Time gradually passed and a full 5 minutes later, the two's lips were even a little swollen. At this time, Qin Guang's right hand had gone straight under the small vest into Jiang Ye's clothes. Their skin had already touched, and if he took another step forward, it would be a bottomless abyss. After going crazy, Jiang Ye finally gradually recovered. She blushed and withdrew her hand from Qin Guang's back, feeling satisfied. Then she looked at Qin Guang's lips and suddenly burst out laughing. "You sausage mouth." She smiled mischievously. Qin Guang looked at her angrily. "Aren't you the same?" Jiang Ye exclaimed in a low voice. "Ah, really?" She covered her lips and rubbed them for a moment. "Really?" Looking at her clever and cute look, Qin Guang could not deny that his heart skipped a beat, as if he had been hit in his soft spot. How cute. In any case, he had finally passed the dangerous part. Qin Guang sighed in his heart. He felt excited, but he also secretly rejoiced. Perhaps there were more regrets. "You've been out for too long. Why don't you hurry back? They will look for you, right?" Qin Guang asked tentatively. At this time, Jiang Ye suddenly looked up at him and she could read a little joy in his eyes. "What? Do you think this is the end of it?" Qin Guang's heart skipped a beat. "Again? You kissed me and touched me. You will take responsibility, right?" Jiang Ye said sinisterly. Qin Guang's face turned pale. He could not refute her. "Think about Brother Baihua's face when he finds out that you are the one he likes." Jiang Ye used this trick again and it was really effective. I lost. What do you want? Tell me, right?" Qin Guang asked dejectedly. Suddenly, Jiang Ye fiercely pulled up her little vest. Her fingers hooked around her chest and continued to pull. Just like that, she opened up her chest and faced Qin Guang. "Now, I want you to look at me." Jiang Ye had an extremely evil and smug smile on her face. Qin Guang looked at her face. Even though he had seen her face in photos many times, this time was different. It suddenly changed from a flat surface to a 3-dimensional one. It was even scarier. "Left and right hands, bring them up." Qin Guang accepted his fate. "Now that I have your seal on me, from today onwards, you are mine." Jiang Ye straightened her neck and said fiercely, "If you dare to ignore me again, I will die with you." After saying that, she suddenly took out her cell phone and pointed the camera at her chest, taking pictures of Qin Guang's hand and her chest. Then she turned around and took pictures of both their faces. "You are not allowed to ignore me in the future. I will take pictures of everything." Qin Guang's eyes widened. He never thought that this would be the end. One of his weaknesses was still in her hands, and in the blink of an eye, another one was in her hands. Just then Jiang Ye's cell phone rang. It was Jin Shiyue. "Song Ye, where have you been? It's been so long. I asked someone to look for you at the front desk just now, but I didn't see you." Jiang Ye raised her hand and pressed Qin Guang's hand again. She looked straight into his eyes and said, "Sister Shiyue, my stomach is a little uncomfortable. I am in the toilet outside. I will be back soon." "Oh, if you are uncomfortable, can we go back early?" Jin Shiyue asked with concern. Jiang Yage's left hand was still exerting force. It doesn't matter. I will be fine after squatting in the toilet. After hanging up the phone, she let go of her hand, then slowly tidied up her clothes and smiled at Qin Guang. I'm really serious. Don't think that I am joking. She turned around, went out, and left. Her movements were smooth. She felt refreshed and satisfied. Only Qin Guang was left sitting on the toilet alone, silently thinking about hitting Yiling. Hello, is it Yiling? Someone has been set up here. Now the situation is out of control. Can you come and save me? What exactly does she like about me? Qin Guang shook his head. I don't understand. I really don't understand. In fact, Jiang Yage didn't understand either, but she felt that if she really had to find a reason for these things, it wouldn't be called like or love. Perhaps it was because of his handsomeness, or perhaps it was because he had saved her life, or perhaps it was because he looked very cute when he acted in Tears Never End on the set, or perhaps it was because of the manliness he showed when he escaped with the two of them at Disney, or perhaps it was because of the joy he showed when he changed into maternity clothes for the first time in the car, or perhaps it was because of his unparalleled handsomeness when he played the piano on stage. After all, Jiang Yage had secretly watched the video at least 10 times, but every time she watched it, her eyes were filled with little stars. This was fate but also a sin. Who would know if they didn't walk to the end? Unlike animals, humans were always creatures dominated by extremely complicated emotions, weren't they? Dragging his tired body, Qin Guang carefully moved out of the women's toilet, then quickly walked out of Inua with his head down. He took a taxi and went directly to the military guest house. Qian Ming had sent his luggage there earlier. Sitting in the car, Qin Guang hesitated for a long time, but then he sent a WeChat message to Jin Shiyue. Tonight, I met your grandfather when I had dinner with Bai Hua and Lin Jingwei. He seems to like me very much. Let's find a suitable time to confess to him. Thank you for taking care of me these days, but it's really unfair for you to continue like this. Qin Guang felt a little tired. Sitting quietly in the hotel room, he didn't even have the interest to read the script of Women, because he had already memorized it. With his current acting skills, it wasn't difficult for him to act in this movie. Forget it, don't think about these messy things anymore. I still have a lot of trouble on my hands. In the end, the hidden story behind the hot pot poisoning case and the possible life and death crisis that one might face were more important. He finally put his thoughts away. The current source of faith value wasn't enough, and it wasn't coming fast enough. The production capacity of the Dark Cup had reached its peak. It was time to think about how to increase the production capacity of the other Dark Cup realms. The next morning he was woken up by Wu Tong's phone call. Wu Tong only said one sentence to make him completely awake. I finished the task and came back. The family that you asked me to investigate a few days ago died on the way back to Lilai County from Wujing last night. Chapter 582. About half an hour later, Qin Guang appeared at the Yanjing Police Department, where Wu Tong had been waiting for him for a long time. In fact, as soon as he left the military guest house, he was picked up by someone who was a police officer from Yanjing. Wu Tong called him because she didn't want Qin Guang to have any misunderstandings with these people, so she just gave him a heads up in advance. It was also a coincidence that the one with the highest rank among the 3 police cars that came to pick him up happened to be one of the trainees he had previously trained and shunned. Although the captain of the special police force, who was nearly 30 years old, was not lucky enough to master the unique skill of darts, he still admired Qin Guang quite a bit. In advance, he briefly explained the cause and effect of the matter to Qin Guang. In fact, the family returned to Wujing 2 days ago, but their behavior was very abnormal. After getting off the plane in Wujing, the family of 3 took a taxi from the airport to the city, and then began to hide like headless flies, as if they were aware that a crisis was approaching. They didn't dare to stay in a hotel, nor did they dare to take a car back to Lilai County, and even turned off their mobile phones. If it weren't for the Skynet system that would capture the characteristics of the family of 3 from time to time, their secretive whereabouts would even make people think that they had disappeared from the world. Then, from yesterday afternoon until evening, the Skynet system could no longer capture their whereabouts, until the car they were in had a serious accident on the highway, and their bodies were found. The car was also very strange. The driver was a good friend of the male owner of the family. Yesterday morning he set off from Lilai County and went straight to Wujing without any warning. According to the driver's wife, who cooperated with the investigation overnight, last night her husband chatted with his old friend on WeChat on his mobile phone, and suddenly left the house early the next morning. However, in the WeChat of the deceased driver, the Dechuan police did not find any chat records. It was clear that after chatting with the male owner of the victim's family last night, he took the initiative to delete all the chat records. In addition, according to the driving recorder of a witness who happened to follow the car on the highway, the car was originally driving smoothly, but not long after passing through the Fengquanshan tunnel on the highway, it suddenly lost control. It snaked for a long distance on the road, but not only did it not slow down, it kept speeding up, until it hit the divider at a speed of more than 150 km per hour on a road with a speed limit of 100 km per hour and broke into pieces. They hid in Wujing, not daring to go to any hotel or internet cafe that required real name registration. They didn't even dare to make phone calls or take a bus. They only dared to try contacting their friends on WeChat and immediately delete their voice chat records. Even when passing through highway toll booths and locations with surveillance cameras, the family of 3 all lowered their heads, afraid of being photographed. But in the end they still couldn't escape. Something must have happened in the Fengquan mountain tunnel, but there was no sign of it even on the car's dashcam. All these signs combined showed that the victim's family had a premonition that someone wanted their lives, and after struggling for a while, they still died. This tragic car accident that killed 4 people at the same time was not a coincidence. The strange car accident that killed 4 people attracted the attention of the Dechuan police. After a thorough investigation, they unknowingly pushed the relationship of the family of 3 to Qin Guang's family. After all, not long ago, Qin Guoli settled a huge compensation of 800,000 yuan with them, and there was a potential dispute. The more important evidence came from Qin Guang, who was in Yanjing. He had previously used the internal channels of the police department to find out the location of the victim's family and left some clues. In addition, he quickly moved into the room next to the victim's family, and he left quickly without waiting for dawn the next day. Although nothing happened at the time, what Qin Guang did leave a major suspicion, because not long after that day, the family began to behave extremely strangely. So the Dechuan police asked me to cooperate with the investigation? They actually want to arrest me? Qin Guang, who was sitting in the back seat, asked. The captain sitting next to him hesitated for 2 seconds and said, "It's not an arrest. In fact, Instructor Qin, you're not very suspicious. Before we find more substantial evidence, everything stays at the level of speculation. There is no strong evidence to directly prove that Instructor Chen was involved in the car accident. Then why did they send someone to pick me up so early in the morning? And it's an elite captain like you? And they even let Wu Tong greet me before picking me up? Are they afraid that I will fight with you?" Qin Guang asked with a meaningful smile. The captain whispered, "There are other reasons, but I can't say more. Instructor Qin, please don't make it difficult for me." "Special Affairs Bureau?" Qin Guang suddenly asked without thinking. The captain's expression froze, but he quickly waved his hand. "I didn't say anything. All right, as long as I understand. Thank you." Qin Guang did not make things difficult for the captain. He tilted his head and leaned against the back of the back seat, deep in thought. He did not expect that the family would die. He had thought that the forces behind the hot pot poisoning case might constantly test him and take some measures. They might send people to threaten him, or they might find people who might know something about the case and warn them. As for his family, who should have been the most worried, he did not need to worry too much because of Wenwen's repeated assurances. In the end, he guessed all wrong. Those people were crazier and more ruthless than he had imagined. Perhaps because of his relationship with Wenwen or his relationship with the authorities in Huaxia, he and his family were restrained from taking action. However, the family of 3 who were coincidentally involved in this case were wiped out without hesitation. He was not worried that he would be convicted. Even if he was indeed a major suspect because of the previous incident, suspicion was just suspicion. They could not have any conclusive evidence, and he did not do it in the first place. For Wu Tong to call in advance, it was obvious that the higher-ups had reached some kind of tacit understanding. Today's trip was only to give an explanation to the Dechuan province police. In a sense, it was an explanation to Wu Shan. However, these were all side details. What really chilled Qin Guang's heart was the methods of those people. Before today, he had thought that the forces of inner strength might only regard themselves as ordinary people with unique skills. However, through this incident, Qin Guang became clear-headed. Those who had achieved success in practicing inner strength did not care about the lives of ordinary people from the bottom of their hearts. They simply treated ordinary people like livestock. Not all martial artists were like this, but the group of martial artists who opposed him in Wenwen must be like this. Wu Tong was standing at the gate waiting anxiously. Qin Guang was suddenly involved in such a big matter. She was originally going to return to Wu Jing today, but the call from Wu Shan last night changed her itinerary. 4 lives were not a trivial matter, but the implications were extremely important. Now, the only person who could make Qin Guang behave and be willing to negotiate with the Special Bureau was probably Wu Tong. When Qin Guang saw Wu Tong again, he found that she was thinner and darker than before. Obviously, the special task she was carrying out these days was not easy. Zheng Yongtai was standing next to Wu Tong. When Qin Guang saw him, he immediately understood that his guess was right. "Let's go inside and talk." Wu Tong came up to him. In front of outsiders, she did not appear to be too intimate. Nodding his head, Qin Guang was about to enter. Zheng Yongtai suddenly flashed from the side and took out a pair of handcuffs from his hand. He cursed at the captain who got out of the car with Qin Guang. "The criminal suspect is not handcuffed? Is this how you do things?" Qin Guang turned slightly. "Bureau Chief Zheng, you are not a police officer. You don't have to overstep your authority, right? Besides, which eye of yours saw me as a suspect? I'm only here to cooperate with the investigation, and you want to convict me with just your mouth? Who gave you the right to do so?" Zheng Yongtai was not going to let it go. "You used your police connections to investigate the victim's whereabouts and stayed in the room next to the victims on the same day. Isn't that evidence?" Qin Guang grinned. "We are all smart people. I know what you want, so don't pretend to be confused. If there is a hidden story behind the murder of the family, you should know better than me who is related to it. Let me remind you, it's best not to complicate matters. When were they killed? When did I investigate them? No matter how much you guess, it's useless. There's not enough evidence." As he said that, he simply raised his hands in front of Zheng Yongtai. "I know you want to show me who is boss and negotiate with me later. Why don't you try handcuffing me? I'll put my hands here. Why don't you try handcuffing me?" In the end, when he really put his hands in front of him, Zheng Yongtai tried to pick up the handcuffs twice, but he put them back. He didn't dare. Wu Tong personally sent Qin Guang to the interrogation room of the Yanjing Police Department. The questions were still the same, such as his name, place of origin, why he came to Yanjing, and what time period he was in Yanjing. There wasn't anything shameful about Qin Guang. Aside from the matter of him getting a room with Wenwen, which he described as him wandering around in boredom, Qin Guang explained everything in detail. When he took a glance, he realized that when this person was taking the statement, he wrote that his whereabouts were unknown from the time he first left Shun's special training camp until now. After thinking about it for a while, Qin Guang understood that Zheng Yongtai and the Yanjing Police Department must have done something. Zheng Yongtai wanted to make him a scapegoat. Things became interesting all of a sudden. It was impossible for Zheng Yongtai not to know his relationship with the elders. In any case, he still had the identity of Jin Shiyue's boyfriend. He actually dared to do something so brazenly? Zheng Yongtai was a bit too bold. "All right, we'll stop recording your statement here. You're not allowed to leave before we get to the bottom of your background. Xiaoyang, take him to the detention room." The Yanjing police officer in charge of interrogating him seemed to have a high rank. After the interrogation, he closed the notebook and was about to leave. He didn't talk nonsense with Qin Guang and just greeted another police officer. Qin Guang wasn't in a hurry to make things difficult for him. He was suddenly involved in such a big matter and he was in Yanjing. It was impossible for no one to inform Jin Shiyue. If he was right, the special police captain who came to pick him up should have already made a call. When he got out of the car just now, that person's eyes were very meaningful. After walking out of the interrogation room, Wu Tong came over and said, "Let's talk together." The Yanjing police officer originally wanted to separate Wu Tong and Qin Guang, but when he saw Zheng Yongtai standing next to them with a cold face, he didn't say anything. This detention room was obviously prepared for Qin Guang alone. It had good ventilation, bright lighting, and a clean single bed. It was better than the general hotel's equipment, but the strong iron door made people feel uncomfortable. Qin Guang sat on the bed and Wu Tong also sat next to him. Qin Guang looked up at Zheng Yongtai and said, "Bureau Chief Zheng, what do you want to talk about?" "Let's talk." At this moment, Wu Tong's phone rang. She got up and picked up the phone. After a few words, her face changed. After hanging up the phone, Qin Guang and Zheng Yongtai asked at the same time, "What happened to Dechuan again?" Wu Tong first looked at Zheng Yongtai as if she didn't want to talk to him, but she felt that she couldn't hide it from him, so she said directly, "I just received news that 6 families involved in the Chen family's hot pot poisoning case died mysteriously, a total of 22 people. Some of them woke up with gas poisoning, and there was also a family who suddenly fell to the ground when they went out for a morning jog. There was also a family who was poisoned while eating breakfast at a noodle shop. The cause of death was very strange and there were no signs. Qin Guang stood up and his body was cold. In his memory, including the Yanjing family, there were a total of 7 families who showed the most severe signs of food poisoning at the hot pot restaurant, and the compensation was also the largest. There was no doubt that there was someone behind the scenes behind these 7 families. Not only did the person behind the scenes kill the family of 3 that he had been in contact with, but he also didn't let any of the other 6 families go. 25 lives were gone just like that. He really didn't expect these people to be so ruthless. Zheng Yongtai took a deep breath and looked outside through the iron fence. He looked at Qin Guang with a complicated expression and said slowly, "I reminded you long ago to stop. Are you happy now? Are you satisfied? Are you happy now?" Although Wu Tong didn't know what had happened, Wu Shan's original words to her were to find a way to persuade Qin Guang not to let him have a conflict with the people from the Special Affairs Bureau. The whole thing, whether it was the Dechuan police or the Yanjing police, was full of strangeness. But among the 3 people in the room, Qin Guang and Zheng Yongtai were well aware of it. "From your tone, it seems like it's my fault?" Qin Guang also looked at Zheng Yongtai, not to be outdone. "Isn't this ridiculous? They were the ones who killed the people and I'm the one at fault." Zheng Yongtai said angrily, "If it weren't for your pointless questioning, these people wouldn't have died." Qin Guang also roared angrily, "This is ridiculous. A life for a life. My family and I were wronged but no one helped me. No one helped me complain. I wanted to find out the truth myself. It's only right and proper. Don't put the cart before the horse. They were the ones who treated human lives like grass, not me, Qin Guang. You're the director of the Special Affairs Bureau and you're doing your job, but now you want to put the blame on me? What position are you sitting on? Who are you working for?" Zheng Yongtai glared at Qin Guang. "I'm working for ordinary people. I know how terrifying they are, so I have to stop you. You didn't kill them, but they died because of you. You just wait and see. If you continue to be stubborn, this is just the beginning. Soon there will be more serious consequences and you will pay a price you can't bear." Qin Guang was so angry that he laughed. "I thought you were a dog raised by those people and now I'm right. It's because of the existence of people like you that those so-called top people can be so unscrupulous. I just wanted to dig up their background a little and they killed people as they pleased. After killing people, they have people like you to clean up after them. Now another 25 people have died. You know who the murderer is, but you don't want to uphold justice. Instead, you want me to stop? Putting aside my personal matters, these 25 people died in vain? I admit that this matter might have something to do with me, so I can't just stand by and watch. Of course, this matter isn't over and there will be more serious consequences, but those people should pay the price." Qin Guang gradually calmed down. Did he really not have a trace of regret in his heart? However, he had seen far too many deaths in the sea of time, and he was no longer that melancholic and sentimental person of the past. He admitted that he was responsible for the sudden turn of events this time. Because of the existence of kind-hearted martial artists like Wenwen and Xan Qin, and because his family was only framed and not exterminated, he thought that those people at least had a bottom line. He underestimated their insanity and too casually spied on them, which led to this sudden and bitter outcome. Now he understood that those people had only framed his family because they had some scruples. Now, they had not done anything to his family because they were also scruples. But for the same reason, as long as it was used on people without any background, they would have no bottom line, because they did not have to pay any price. And all these years, it was people like Zheng Yongtai who stood in front of him who gave them the belief that they could kill people at will without paying any price. No matter what they did, the Special Affairs Bureau, represented by Zheng Yongtai, was playing the role of an accomplice. Qin Guang did not intend to shirk his responsibility, but he also did not intend to make any concessions with Zheng Yongtai. Since they felt that they could do whatever they wanted without paying any price, then he would make them pay the price. I am at fault in this matter, and I must personally make up for this mistake. The dead cannot be resurrected, but I must at least avenge them. As for these families who had helped the people behind the scenes to put pressure on the Qin family and financially ruin the Qin family, Qin Guang felt that they were at fault, but they did not deserve to die. But now they were dead and the price was too heavy. They were not flawed NPCs in the sea of time, but real people in the world he lived in. Qin Guang was not a person with a strong sense of justice, but this matter had completely dragged him into it. Whether it was for himself or for others, he could not stand by and watch. What a joke, you don't understand how scary they are. Don't think that just because you know how to throw a few darts, you are just an ant compared to them. What right do you have to make them pay the price? You don't know how much effort we put in, how much humiliation we endured to gradually stabilize the situation today. Are you going to ruin the years of hard work of the entire Special Bureau for your own selfishness? When Seng Yongtai heard him say that he wanted to make internal strength martial artists pay the price, he was so angry that he almost laughed. Qin Guang looked straight at him. It is my fault, I will take it, but Seng Yongtai, you guys are not innocent either. Don't try to use your so-called hard work to blackmail me. I look down on people like you from the bottom of my heart. No dogs like you. If you're really doing this for the so-called ordinary people, then why did you not hesitate to put all the blame on us, a family like us, in the first place? I believe that my family is not an exception. Who knows how many people in the country are like my family? Forget it, don't answer me. Let me tell you why. It is because deep in your bones, you feel that martial artists are a cut above ordinary people. As long as ordinary people accidentally get involved in the fight between internal strength martial artists, no matter if it is passive or active, the ordinary people will always be in the wrong, and the martial artists will always be in the right, understand? You have turned yourself into their dogs. Seng Yongtai found that he could not argue with him. He only pointed a trembling finger at Qin Guang. You will regret it, you will definitely regret it. Qin Guang shook his head. If I stop now, I will regret it for the rest of my life. Say it, they must have something for you to tell me and then you can leave. Seng Yongtai's expression froze. After a while he said indifferently, that's right. They told me to tell you that this is just a greeting. If you continue to pester them, they'll target your friends, your classmates, and your relatives next time. Although they are a little afraid of you now, if you do not know what is good for you and want a foot after an inch, then don't blame them. Okay, then go back and tell them. This matter ends here, Qin Guang said suddenly. Seng Yongtai was stunned. He obviously did not believe Qin Guang's words. You? He was puzzled. He was just scolding him. Why did this guy suddenly change his mind? See, I agreed, but you didn't believe me. You passed the message, but they didn't believe me either. In fact, what we said is nonsense, isn't it? Get lost, you are useless as a dog. Qin Guang waved his hand, ordering him to leave. Seng Yongtai was furious, but in the end he endured it, snorted coldly, opened the door and walked out. When Seng Yongtai went out, he said loudly to the Yanjing police chief who had been waiting outside, find any reason to lock him up for at least 10 years, don't let him go out and cause trouble, it will be good for everyone. Qin Guang sneered. Seng Yongtai's words were purely bluffing. He was just venting his anger after being scolded by him. Officer Wu, why are you not leaving? A Yanjing police officer came in and looked around. Wu Tong's heart was filled with dark clouds at this time. There were so many doubts. How could she be willing to leave? I need to communicate with my client. Officer Wu, I am afraid this matter is not within the scope of your position. The man did not listen to her and left. Wu Tong stood up, took out another certificate from her pocket. I forgot to tell you, I just passed the graduation exam of Shun Special Training Camp. This is my special examination certificate. I now have a special position. I have the power to ask about the major cases nationwide. The man was shocked at first, then he pouted and left, closing the door again. Wu Tong quickly sat down and grabbed Qin Guang's hand. What is going on? I was the one who answered the phone. My dad also told me a lot, but why do I feel like I am the only one kept in the dark? Qin Guang looked at her, patted the back of his sister's hand. It is a small matter, as long as it is not the end of the world, it is not a big deal, don't worry about it. Just like Wenwen did not want to tell him too many secrets of the internal force martial artist to protect him, at this time, Qin Guang had the same attitude towards Wu Tong. The less she knew, the better. Chapter 583. Wu Tong obviously didn't believe his words. Her almond-shaped eyes widened. Tell me the truth. What the hell is going on? 25 people died in one night. This is such a big case. Don't play dumb with me. Qin Guang felt a headache coming on. He even blamed Wu Shan in his heart for letting Wu Tong get involved in this matter. She didn't play any role at all. She didn't know what Wu Shan was thinking. In fact, Qin Guang completely misunderstood Wu Shan. Wu Shan didn't know that this matter involved an inner force martial artist. It was just that he had been shocked by the explosive news that had suddenly been reported all the way from below. An ordinary case of 4 casualties naturally wouldn't be reported to him, but if the matter involved the well-known grandson-in-law of the Jin family, the importance of the matter would be raised to another level. However, Wu Shan knew that Qin Guang and Jin Shirui were pretending to have a relationship. He had asked Wu Tong about this before. Then Wu Shan knew that his daughter's relationship with Qin Guang wasn't ordinary. Qin Guang also saved Wu Tong's life. After analyzing the case, Wu Shan deduced from his experience that Qin Guang would definitely be acquitted and released. After all, this matter was just speculation. Wu Shan didn't believe that Qin Guang was the murderer. Perhaps he did have some purpose in finding that family through the police system, but it was impossible for him to kill them. Wu Shan, who had once tried Su Lijing with Chen Guang, didn't believe that Chen Guang was a person who disregarded human life. In his impression, although Chen Guang wasn't blindly righteous, he was extremely principled. He didn't lack money now, so it was impossible for him to kill people for a mere 800,000 yuan. Of course, this didn't mean that Wu Shan had completely lost his principles. He didn't think too much about it. He only told Wu Tong to communicate with Chen Guang and get him to cooperate with the investigation. He also told Wu Tong not to have any conflict with Beijing's officers. After all, Wu Shan knew that Chen Guang was powerful and had a violent temper. What if he killed a police officer in Beijing with a single punch? That would be a huge problem. As soon as Wu Tong arrived, she directly bumped into Tseng Yongtai from the Special Bureau. Although Wu Tong wasn't very clear about the Special Bureau's background, Tseng Yongtai seemed to have a lot of authority in the Yanjing Police Department. The leader of the Yanjing Bureau did make it clear to Wu Tong that this matter was ultimately decided by Director Tseng. Wu Tong, as the temporary contact person appointed by the Dachuan Provincial Office, after a brief communication with Tseng Yongtai, because she could make Chen Guang behave. Tseng Yongtai was also happy to see her communicate with Chen Guang. Wu Tong had always thought that her job was to make Chen Guang and Tseng Yongtai cooperate. But when she really listened to Chen Guang and Tseng Yongtai's conversation, and received a phone call in between, and the death toll rose from 3 to 25, she realized that this matter wasn't as simple as it seemed. Although each case seemed to be an independent individual, there were all sorts of coincidences. Until now, they hadn't even found the motive and method of the murderer. But it was precisely because the sudden deaths of these 7 families were particularly strange. According to past case handling experience, it could indeed be regarded as a unified major case and filed first. If there were any other secrets, they could also be separated in the process of investigation. It's really nothing. I can't explain it to you. Chen Guang was having a headache from Wu Tong's interrogation. What do you mean you can't explain it to me? I've always felt that the matter of your family's hot pot restaurant wasn't simple, but I really couldn't find any details. What kind of people did you investigate behind my back? Aren't you afraid of death? As Wu Tong chatted with him, she managed to straighten out her thoughts. Did those people want to hide the truth so they directly cut off the loose ends? Chen Guang was still shaking his head and lying through his teeth. Although he knew that he couldn't fool Wu Tong couldn't do anything about it if he refused to admit it. Wu Tong looked at him angrily. She wanted to strangle this guy. I'm the police. Why are you trying to show off? Do you think this is still a child's house? 25 lives. It's only you that I can calmly ask you here. If it were another suspect in such a case, I would first beat you half to death before asking you. At this moment, the door of the detention room was suddenly opened. Yan Yingjian, the person in charge of the Beijing Bureau, stood outside the door with a straight face. Officer Wu, come out. Chen Guang is involved in a major case and is now a criminal suspect. Even if you know him, you still have to pay attention to the disciplinary issues. Wu Tong stood up. From a legal point of view, Chen Guang was indeed a major suspect. But from an emotional point of view, she was extremely disgusted with Yan Yingjian's words. Director Yan, it's true that he is a suspect, but as a special class police officer who graduated from Shun Special Training Camp, I'm also the contact person for Dachuan. I'm qualified to participate in the case. Wu Tong only hesitated for 5 seconds. She no longer asked Chen Guang but chose to confront Yan Yingjian. Yan Yingjian obviously didn't expect Wu Tong to choose to fight him head-on. His face turned cold. Wu Tong, since you're a junior and I've been good friends with your father for many years, I'll give you a piece of advice. You'd better not get involved in this case. The consequences are more serious than you think. Wu Tong frowned even more. Although the investigation of Chen Guang had just begun, and there was no strong evidence, the situation seemed to have taken a sharp turn after Chen Guang and Director Zeng of the Special Bureau broke down. This Director Yin seemed to be targeting Chen Guang. His words implied that he wanted to make Chen Guang's case a reality. Yan Yingjian saw Wu Tong frown and stopped talking. He thought she was afraid, so he turned his head and said, Xiao Yuntai, you and Xiao Yang take Chen Guang to the interrogation room. I will ask him personally. Wu Tong woke up with a start and shouted, Stop! She opened her arms in front of Chen Guang, like an angry hen trying to protect her child in front of an eagle. Xiao Yuntai and Xiao Yang froze in place. They were at a loss. They couldn't afford to offend Wu Tong. They looked at Yan Yingjian for help. In this case, only the director could do it. Wu Tong. You'd better think about your identity. You are a police officer. Your father got you here to help us investigate Qin Guang, not to cause trouble. You won't be able to help us in your current state, and you'll only be harming yourself and your father. Yan Ningjian also felt a headache. At this time, Qin Guang stood up and held Wu Tong's waist from behind. He pushed her aside and said, "It's okay. Let them interrogate him." Wu Tong looked back at him. "Are you crazy? They're obviously trying to frame you." Yan Ningjian couldn't stop coughing. Although Wu Tong was not a police officer in Yanjing, she was still their colleague. Although he did intend to do so, it was too embarrassing for Wu Tong to say it in front of him. "Wu Tong, don't slander me. When we encounter such a major case, we will be more cautious and strict in handling it. You are also a police officer. You have to be responsible for your own words." Wu Tong waved her hand. "How am I irresponsible? All right. Don't talk anymore. Don't make trouble here." Qin Guang pinched Wu Tong's waist without batting an eyelid. He used a lot of force, causing Wu Tong to shrink back halfway through her words. Qin Guang didn't feel guilty, nor did he panic. He wanted to see how this Director Yen planned to deal with him. He was no longer the ignorant Wu of the past. He had someone backing him up. It seemed that this Director Yen and Seng Yongtai had a good relationship. The two of them should be in the same boat. "Let me in. I also have the right to sit in." The group of people turned to the interrogation room. Yan Ningjian wanted to stop Wu Tong outside the door, but she started to make a scene again. All right. You can sit in if you want." Yan Ningjian gritted his teeth and began to curse in his heart. "You can use your identity as Wu Shan's daughter to make a scene. If things get out of hand, even your father can't protect you." The Special Affairs Bureau was behind this. Even if Qin Guang was backed by the Jin family, the Jin family couldn't fall out with the Special Affairs Bureau because of him. Seng Yongtai didn't just represent himself. There were people behind him. "Qin Guang, be honest. Aside from you, who else are your accomplices? What methods did your accomplices use to harm?" Yan Ningjian spoke the moment everyone sat down. Wu Tong interrupted him again. "Director Yen, now Qin Guang is only a possible suspect. I think there is something wrong with your interrogation method." Yan Ningjian finally got angry. He slammed the table and stood up. "Wu Tong, are you done? Get out of here." Qin Guang, who was sitting in the chair, was as steady as a mountain. He coughed and said, "It's strange. When did the police station become a place to compete for the loudest voice?" "Shut up." Yan Ningjian didn't say anything. Instead, it was Wu Tong who told Qin Guang to shut up. Wu Tong's idea was very simple. At this time, the more Qin Guang said, the more mistakes he made. It might be used by the cunning Yan Ningjian to make a fuss. However, Qin Guang paid no attention to him and replied, "Bureau Chief Yan, I have a question. I've been participating in the training in Shund, and I haven't contacted anyone. I even stayed in the military's guest house last night. I believe that it won't be hard for you to check my phone records. I have an alibi, so on what basis are you saying that I'm the mastermind? Did you guess it with your toes?" Yan Ningjian looked at the prepared confession in his hand. He didn't intend to give Qin Guang any chance to speak. "That's not what you said in the first confession. Qiao Yuntai, transfer him to the detention center and formally detain him." After that, he was about to kick him out. He didn't care about Qin Guang's so-called alibi at all. He didn't think that he needed to care about anything since he had the imperial sword given by Seng Yongtai. Although this might offend the Jin family, so what? At least he wouldn't die, right? If he succeeded in getting in touch with those people through the special bureau, the Jin family might not dare to do anything to him. He was just a grandson-in-law. If he died, he could find another one. He wasn't that important to the Jin family. As for this person's identity as an instructor in the Shun Special Training Area, it might indeed be a potential trouble. However, this matter was proposed by the Special Bureau. Seng Yongtai had said that he would take full responsibility for everything. In addition, Yan Ningjian's order wasn't to kill Qin Guang, but to lock him up for 37 days and then let him go. Perhaps he didn't want to provoke Qin Guang to resist too fiercely, so he quietly moved his head closer and whispered, "Qin Guang, I know that you will definitely be acquitted in the end, but I also have my own difficulties. Please understand me. I guarantee that I'll get someone to serve you well in the detention center. You can even surf the internet. You can do whatever you want in there. You just have to stay for 37 days. You just have to cooperate. This is good for everyone." Wu Tong wanted to come closer, but she was blocked by a few other Yanjing personnel who had been called in to form a human wall. Listening to Yan Ningjian's whispers, Qin Guang raised his eyebrows. Sure enough, Tseng Yongtai's roar was nothing more than a warning to him, hoping that he would back off. If he wasn't in a hurry to collect faith points, it wouldn't matter if he was locked up for 37 days. However, he really couldn't afford to waste time now. One had to rely on her own strength to face the two major sects, Poison Sect and Dark Sect. Perhaps there was someone behind the hot pot poisoning case. Every day he wasted, he would be more worried. He grinned again. Director Yin, it seems that you're also a sensible person. Why don't you help me pass a message to Director Tseng, who hasn't gone far? I won't investigate this matter anymore. I really won't investigate it anymore. It's meaningless for me to waste time in the detention center. I'll save my energy. After I get out, I'll do what I need to do with you guys. Everyone can pretend that nothing happened. If you insist on using such petty tricks to waste my time, I'm afraid that you'll be the one in trouble instead of me. Yan Yingjin was threatened by Qin Guang. He glared at him. Do you really think that I'm afraid of you? Do you really think that I'm afraid of old Master Jin? You haven't even married into the family yet and you're already putting on airs? Yan Yingjin didn't believe that the Jin family would care that much about Qin Guang, their grandson-in-law. Moreover, the Jin family wouldn't want to completely fall out with the forces behind the Special Affairs Bureau, right? At this moment, there was a commotion in the hall outside. In just 10 to 20 seconds, a middle-aged man appeared at the door of the interrogation room. Yan Yingjin propped himself up and was stunned. It was Secretary Chu Xiaowei, who had been popular for the past 2 years. Why was he here? Behind Secretary Chu, an old man in military uniform appeared. It was Old Tan. Yan Yingjin was even more flustered. Am I blind? Why is General Tan here in person? Is Qin Guang that important as the chief instructor of Shun's special training camp? That's impossible. Isn't his title of chief instructor something the Jin family used to gild him? What's there to teach a lousy dart? Isn't this a laughing stock? Poor Yan Yingjin was fooled by Tseng Yongtai. Although there were people in the Yanjing police station who had participated in Qin Guang's special training, according to the confidentiality regulations of Shun's special training camp, even he, the director of the Yanjing police station, didn't know the specific content of the special training camp, so he couldn't ask. He only took Tseng Yongtai's words as the golden rule. In Tseng Yongtai's description, the so-called chief instructor of Qin Guang didn't carry any weight. Yan Yingjin? Who allowed you to arrest Qin Guang? What's wrong with your brain after being a policeman for so many years? Where's the evidence? Where's your evidence? Old Tan took the lead and walked forward. Although he didn't bring a single soldier with him, he alone was equivalent to thousands of troops and horses. Chu Xiaowei, who was next to him, was also livid. He held a document in black and white with a stamp as well as a photo. Director Yan, take a look at this document first. Chu Xiaowei said. Yan Yingjin took a look and found that the document was a commendation letter. It was a commendation letter for Qin Guang's outstanding contribution in Shun's special training camp. It clearly stated everything from when he entered Shun's special training camp to when he left. This meant that the entire Shun's special training camp was helping Qin Guang make up an alibi for the past few days. In addition, this photo made his head even more swollen. It turned out that Qin Guang was drinking with the 3 old men Jin Jiangtan, and a group of second and third generations at the youth hall. At this time yesterday, Qin Guang was also eating with the leaders at Baoshan restaurant. Also, this is the call records of Qin Guang during this period that I got from the communications department. This USB flash drive contains the surveillance videos of Qin Guang staying in several hotels after living next door to that family. Which one of your eyes found evidence of Qin Guang's involvement in the case? Chu Xiaowei was usually very kind, but this time he was ordered to come and he was really angry. Yan Yingjin was questioned again and again and he had a guilty conscience. He rolled his eyes. But there was a day when Qin Guang's whereabouts were unknown. He was talking about the day when Qin Guang and Wen hung out together. Qin Guang's whereabouts that day were indeed not recorded. Tseng Yongtai also didn't know when he flashed out. Things had gotten to this point, and if he didn't come out to help poor Yan Yingjin, he wouldn't be able to hold on much longer. Greetings, General Tan. Greetings, Secretary Chu. The two turned to look at Tseng Yongtai. General Tan frowned. Director Tseng, what are you doing here? Tseng Yongtai decided to go straight to the point. He first signaled with his eyes to let the irrelevant people leave. Soon only Qin Guang, Wu Tong, Yan Yingjin and Chu Tan were left in the room. I'll be straightforward. The big shots from the Poison Sect and Dark Clan wanted me to knock some sense into Qin Guang. As for who Qin Guang was with that day, I'll help him explain it. General Tan should know about it. The bloody battle in Feng Town was between the Wen clan's Missy and the Wen clan's third master. Qin Guang can be considered as Missy Wen's man. Now that third Master Wen is dead, I can say something about it. Third Master Wen is from the Poison Sect and Dark Clan. Before that day, Qin Guang was indeed with Missy Wen. This so-called murder case was also an attempt by the Poison Sect and Dark Clan to make Qin Guang behave. Now that Missy Wen and the two big sects are at loggerheads, why should small fry like us get involved in a fight between the gods? We'll just go along with their wishes and settle the matter. Isn't that a happy ending? When Seng Yongtai said this, there was a hint of pride and nonchalance in his tone. Old Man Tan's lips trembled in anger. He wanted to scold Seng Yongtai, but no words came out of his mouth. Chu Xiaowei understood the terrifying meaning behind Seng Yongtai's words. This matter was about to go beyond his authority. As for Qin Guang, although he had already guessed that the Poison Sect and Dark Clan were the real culprits behind the hot pot incident, he did not expect Seng Yongtai to admit it so directly and generously. He did it in front of Wu Tong, Old Man Tan, Chu Xiaowei and Yanning Jian. He was obviously saying, if I want to do something, you guys have to kneel and listen to my orders. Seng Yongtai's so-called fight between the gods even included small fry like Old Man Tan and Chu Xiaowei. Obviously, in his heart, other than inner force martial artists, everyone else was a small fry. Only inner force martial artists were his masters. It was a simple sentence, but he admitted to a lot of things. In fact, there were signs of this long ago, but everyone turned a blind eye in the past. However, Qin Guang, who had a special identity and was caught in the middle, became the fuse and once again brought this matter that no one was willing to think about to the surface. Seng Yongtai's actions were the same as many years ago. He revealed his trump card. He looked like he had already become a servant serving inner force martial artists. What could they do to him? General Tan's lips finally trembled. Seng Yongtai, oh Seng Yongtai, we've put so much hope in you. Is this how the Special Affairs Bureau has been doing things all these years? We've been taking care of you, but you've become their dogs? Seng Yongtai had lost count of how many times he had been called a dog today, but he was resistant and did not feel ashamed at all. General Tan, a wise man submits to circumstances. You were the ones who taught me this. If you hadn't adapted to circumstances back then, why would there be a department like the Special Affairs Bureau? Don't you think so? But we want you to spy on them, not to serve them. Chu Xiaowei said angrily. Seng Yongtai, who had finally shed all pretense of cordiality, no longer hid his insolence. He said coldly, it's useless for you to say that to me. You have to say it to our Chief Ouyang. I'm just a servant following orders. Go to hell with your pretentious act. Seng Yongtai was still feeling smug when Qin Guang suddenly punched him in the face. I've been annoyed with you for a long time. I'm not playing anymore. Go tell your Chief Ouyang to swell up. I want to see how swollen he is. I'm leaving today. Let the Poison Clan and Dark Clan come and kill me. You only know how to talk tough. If you really wanted to kill me, you would have done it 800 years ago. Who would be in the mood to waste time with you? Stop pretending to be profound. Qin Guang really did not want to know how big of a conspiracy he was involved in. He did not want to think about it at all. It was not that he was stupid, but it was extremely annoying. He was annoyed to no end. Once he mastered his godly skills, he would not have so many messy things to deal with. He only understood one thing. Since the Poison Clan and Dark Clan were still playing this game of beating him up instead of killing him directly, he would definitely be fine even if he swaggered out of this place today. It was obvious that he was still useful to keep his life. Wenwen's power as a thought grandmaster was indeed intimidating enough. They were wary of him. To put it bluntly, the matter was very simple. He could simply rely on his faith points to enter the middle realm of the Heavenly Spirit Cup and learn the painting manual as soon as possible. Then he might be able to count on the mysterious prize that Luli had prepared for him. Then he would become someone with a fist harder than anyone else. I don't care what sect you guys are from or what looks like. I'm not F***king playing anymore. The old man is the owner of the Heavenly Holy Grail. The old man wants to master all the Qilin arms and become a peerless thought grandmaster with just a lift of his hand. Then he can flip your table, alright? Qin Guang's sudden attack had left everyone dumbfounded, while Seng Yongtai was even dizzy from the punch. Before Yanning Jian could say anything, Qin Guang punched him in the stomach again. You're not a good guy either. Scram. Chu Xiaowei and Old Man Tan were also stunned by Qin Guang's sudden outburst. Thank you for your kind intentions today. I'm really fine. It's just a small matter. Go back and pretend that nothing happened and that you don't know anything. Soon I'll give all of you an explanation even if I have to risk my life. I'm leaving. Qin Guang was about to leave. Wu Tong caught up and grabbed Qin Guang's arm. Wait for me. Qin Guang stopped in his tracks and ruthlessly pinched Wu Tong's butt. I told you to stay out of this. Just go back. Wu Tong shook his head. No, I don't want to. You can't? Qin Guang glared. Wu Tong was actually a little scared by his stare. She pinched him and said, I'm worried about you. Chapter 584. I'm begging you, alright? Go back to the 5 capitals or the Shun training camp. Do whatever you need to do. We'll be the same person and you'll be the same person soon enough. Qin Guang had no choice but to follow Wu Tong outside. He stopped and turned to speak to her in a serious tone. It's such a big deal. Wu Tong was stubborn. You saw it too. No matter how big the deal is, I'm still unscathed. I beat up Tsing Yongtai, but didn't I just swagger out like that? Look, if they really wanted to catch me, wouldn't they have done it long ago since we're already walking leisurely to the door? Anyway, things are more complicated than you think, but also simpler than you think. If you think it's a big deal, then it's a big deal. If you think it's a small deal, then it doesn't matter. This isn't your responsibility anyway. To put it bluntly, you don't have the right to get involved. As Qin Guang spoke, he grabbed Wu Tong's shoulders with both hands. It's not that I'm at odds with you, but if you really get involved, not only will you not be able to do anything, you'll only make things difficult for me. Don't make things difficult for me, alright? Under normal circumstances, Wu Tong was a very stubborn person. She was the same this time. She thought that Qin Guang would relent and give in. However, after so long, Qin Guang still had the same attitude. He was very serious and showed no signs of relenting. This younger brother was no longer like a younger brother. That was what Wu Tong thought. You really can't? She asked. Qin Guang nodded heavily. Yes. Then be careful alone. What do you plan to do? Wu Tong asked. Qin Guang blinked. I don't plan to do anything. Didn't Tsing Yongtai say that Poison Sect and Dark Sect want me to behave? Then I'll behave. Don't worry, I'm not stupid enough to court death. I won't do anything, and that's exactly what they want. Really? Of course. I'm so weak now. It's useless no matter how high I jump on my own. Don't be fooled by my angry look just now. In fact, I've already made it very clear to Tsing Yongtai. As long as I'm willing to cooperate, they won't do anything to me. Beating him up was just because she really didn't like him and wanted to satisfy her craving. Here, I promise you that I won't do anything stupid, okay? Now that Qin Guang had world-class acting skills, he had to pretend to be carefree and nonchalant. He didn't want to be too realistic and shake Wu Tong. Alright, I'll listen to you this time. Wu Tong's eyes were filled with tears as she turned around and retreated. Just listen to me. Be a good girl. Qin Guang blinked. He had known Wu Tong for a long time, but this was the first time he had said that to her. Thinking about it, it really wasn't easy, but this time Qin Guang was determined. No matter how stubborn she was, he didn't intend to give in. Qin Guang originally thought that Old Man Tan and Secretary Chu would quietly follow him to chat, but there was no movement until he got on the plane back to Wujing. He was a little disappointed. The so-called do-nothing was just an act for Tsing Yongtai and his master to see. In fact, he wanted to uproot Tsing Yongtai and his master more than anyone else. But he didn't think that Chu Xiaowei and Old Man Tan would actually swallow Tsing Yongtai's arrogant and smug look on the spot. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes and personally participated in it, Qin Guang wouldn't have believed that in this technologically advanced modern society, there really existed such a privileged class that was completely above ordinary people's heads. Something like inner force could allow some people to have ultimate skills, just like Wenwen's tyrannical strength. But not every inner force martial artist was as strong as Wenwen. Qin Guang thought of Old Man Jin and Old Man Jiang that he had met before. Sitting on the plane, he clenched his fists tightly and gritted his teeth in hatred. Are you guys really that afraid of death? Sitting in such a position and indulging Tsing Yongtai and inner force martial artists like this, how can you live up to your names and the seats under your butts? Getting off the plane with a sullen face, he was about to call his family when his phone inexplicably rang, indicating that the other party's phone was turned off. Qin Guang's heart skipped a beat. He had briefly contacted his family before getting on the plane, and everything was fine. Why did the phone suddenly not go through? In the past, his father had developed the habit of never turning off his phone when he was doing business, and he still hadn't changed it. Even if his phone ran out of battery, he always had a portable power source on him. It was impossible for his phone to be turned off just like that. Could it be that something happened? Let's get someone else to try and see. When he called his mother, her phone was also turned off. Uncle, aunt, uncle. None of his more than 20 relatives and family members in Lilai's hometown could get through. An inexplicable sense of fear suddenly emerged in Qingguang's heart. He had never felt so panicked before. Did he make a mistake again? This time he had dragged his parents and family down with him? Holding onto the glass door of the airport exit, he felt that all the strength in his body had been drained. Looking up at the afternoon sky outside, it was supposed to be sunny, but he felt that the entire sky was gloomy. He clutched his backpack tightly holding onto the heavenly Holy Grail inside. An inexplicable murderous intent rose in his chest like a flame, and he gritted his teeth so hard that they almost broke. Poison Clan. Dark Clan. If you really dare to touch a single hair on my family, I will make sure that your entire clan is annihilated, and not even the fowls and dogs will be spared. Gritting his teeth, he thought to himself. The airport security personnel next to him noticed that he was behaving strangely. They approached him and asked anxiously, "Young man, what's the matter?" Not long ago, there was a major incident at Shuanghe Airport in Wujing. In the past 2 months, the security of the entire airport had been raised to a whole new level. Qingguang got up slowly. Nothing. The airport security personnel found it strange. He even shook his head, thinking that he was hallucinating. Why did it seem that the area around this young man was colder than other places? Even the sunlight seemed to have dimmed on him. At this moment, a young man in a suit walked over and called out suspiciously, "Little Guang?" Qingguang looked up in surprise. "Brother?" That's right, this young man in a suit was Qingguang's eldest cousin, Feng Yong. He was a small civil servant working in the finance department in the outskirts of Wujing. Qingguang moved forward agitatedly and hugged Feng Yong's shoulder. At the same time, he looked around vigilantly. Now that the situation was urgent, he had to protect as many people as he could. "Brother, hurry up and leave with me. We can't stay here for long." Feng Yong struggled out of his grasp in bewilderment. "What? Little Guang, what's wrong with you?" Qingguang lowered his voice. "I can't explain it to you clearly, but didn't you notice that we can't get through to Uncle and Aunt's phones? We can't get through to my parents' phones either. Let's go to a safe place first." Feng Yong was even more confused. "Isn't that obvious? I just sent them all on the plane and the plane is probably about to take off. Of course we can't get through to them." What's going on?" Qingguang was dumbfounded. Feng Yong saw that he was completely clueless and said in realization, "Well, you still don't know, right? I got a big shock this afternoon too. They were a bunch of old men and women. I don't know what went wrong in their brains, but they said they wanted to go on a trip just like that. Early this morning they chartered a car from their hometown and came to Wujing. They even bought the plane tickets. If it wasn't for the fact that the car they chartered was driven by my classmate, I would have almost been fooled. It was a lot of trouble." More than 20 people and their whole family came? A big question mark popped up in Qingguang's mind. Feng Yong nodded. "If it wasn't for the fact that I couldn't leave the office, I would have walked right into their trap and been dragged away by them. Take a look at your WeChat. Your dad must have told you." Qingguang took out his WeChat and saw a long voice message from Qingguili. When Qingguang heard that, he roughly understood what was going on. Because of the family's bankruptcy, coupled with his mother's illness, the whole family had been poor for the past 2 years. Recently, seeing that they had become rich, his father, who never took the normal path, began to be restless again. He thought about it all day long. People always have all kinds of opportunities and coincidences in their lives. Who knows when they'll grow old and they'll be gone in the blink of an eye. Now that his family was not short of money, and he had nothing to do, if he didn't go out while he was still healthy when he got old, or if he suddenly disappeared, he wouldn't be able to go out even if he wanted to. Wouldn't it be a waste of his life? Thus, his father simply took out the nearly 1 million yuan bonus that Zhu Jifa's printing factory had sent over a few days ago and brought his entire family on this willful and unscrupulous trip. Their initial goal was to tour 10 countries in Europe. They wouldn't come back until they had a good time. Third aunt had studied in Europe when she was young, so she had no problem with the language. She also knew the local geography, so there was no need for a tour guide. As for why he hid it from Qingguang, according to Qingguili, it was because he saw how busy he was now, participating in the darts competition and playing the piano. He reckoned that he would have to deal with his sugar daddy Jiang Yage in Beijing. As a father, he didn't want to trouble him so that he wouldn't have to worry. Actually, Qingguang knew that Qingguili was afraid that he would make them unhappy if he followed them. He looked at Feng Yong. "This is really..." Feng Yong rolled his eyes. "Speechless, right? I was also having a headache. You don't know how crowded it was at the airport. My dad. This uncle of mine." The two cousins were inexplicably distressed by Qingguili's unorthodox way of doing things. However, Qin Guang was relieved that it was not the Poison Clan or the Dark Clan who did it. It was good that they left. The 10 countries in Europe were a squandering trip with a budget of 50,000 yuan per person. It would probably take at least a month for them to come back. That way he wouldn't have to be on tenterhooks all the time. Qin Guoli and the rest were completely traveling on their own. According to his unreliable dad, they had no goals, no organization, and no discipline on this trip. Even though it was called 10 countries, it might not be enough. Anyway, they arrived at the destination first and went wherever they wanted. However, in Yanjing there was a different kind of tense atmosphere. Ordinary people couldn't detect any changes, but somewhere in the dark, there was an extremely solemn atmosphere. I was the one who recommended Ouyang Tianqing. I apologize to all of you here. I, Yi Junming, will take full responsibility for this. Alright, old Yi, don't say too much. We didn't expect things to turn out this way. It's not just your problem, everyone is responsible. Old man Jean pinched his fingers and muttered, although you were the one who recommended him back then, all of us voted for him to be the candidate as well. Other than Ouyang Tianqing, we didn't have a better candidate. At that particular time, only someone like him who could handle both sides could be a good liaison officer. He was also the director of the Special Affairs Bureau. Another old man said, our original intention was for him to restrain the inner force martial artists. He did a good job on the surface. Although our cooperation with the inner force martial artists had been progressing slowly all these years, there had never been any conflicts. That was why we were all deceived. We didn't expect him to use his power to build up his influence over the past 10 or 20 years. Although he was supposed to be a liaison officer, he was actually helping the inner force martial artists clean up the mess they made in the secular world. He even used the privilege we gave him to do it flawlessly. Now that it has become this chaotic situation, all of us are to blame. That's right. If it wasn't for Qin Guang's incident that exposed his secret, we would still be deceived. Thinking about it, it gives me goosebumps. The hot-tempered old man Jiang slammed the table. I don't think we should waste time talking to them. We tolerated them in the past because we were troubled by both internal and external threats, and had yet to gain a firm foothold. Now the country is at peace and our guns are many times stronger than before. Our weapons are many times more advanced. Why should we be afraid of them? No matter what you think, I, old man Jiang, will not take the blame for this. Otherwise, when I die of old age and enter the coffin, my descendants may criticize me. Look, it's these people who nurtured a tiger and allowed the inner force martial artists to do evil. Anyway, I'm already half a foot in the coffin. If I die, so be it. We turned a blind eye and tolerated them for almost 20 years. Now that they've taken advantage of us, I won't tolerate it anymore. That's right. Let's do it. Yi Junming stood up abruptly. He was the most emotional. I, old Yi, have made the most mistakes. Why don't you let me do it? What era are we living in? This is the era of information and high technology. Although we're old, our soldiers are still young. If they want to turn themselves into a cancer, I, old Yi, am willing to lead the soldiers to remove this cancer. At that moment, the old man in the middle who had been silent coughed softly. Everyone calm down. I'll get little Chu to contact Ouyang Tianqing and see what he has to say. The old man gently pressed a button, and the projector at the back of the conference room lit up. A figure wearing a black robe and a cloak appeared on the screen, making it hard for people to see his face clearly. Greetings, sir. Old man Jiang slammed the table again. You still have the cheek to call us sir? Old Jiang. Be quiet. The old man in the middle shouted. From his old body, an aura that no one dared to disobey gushed out. Old man Jiang sat down slowly, but Ouyang Tianqing did not move in the projection. Ouyang Tianqing, speak. What do you want? The old man in the middle said slowly. Ouyang Tianqing gently shook the cloak on his head and said, I, Ouyang Tianqing, sincerely apologize to Comrade Tseng Yongtai and Comrade Xia Ruahai of the Great Chuan Province's Southwest Branch for practicing favoritism and committing fraud in their work. The Special Affairs Bureau has no intention of jumping out of the system and becoming an inner force martial artist's lackey. Our loyalty to the country and to the chiefs has never changed. It's just that in the past, there have been cases of deceiving people like Tseng Yongtai and Xia Ruahai. Ouyang Tianqing said that. On the surface, he was expressing his loyalty, but none of the old men believed him. They had heard similar words for many years, but it still ended up like this. Just get straight to the point. The Special Affairs Bureau's affairs can only be handled in a special way. We don't have any other think tanks to refer to. Basically, only the people on the table can make the final decision, the old man in the middle said directly. Ouyang Qianxing grunted. To answer to the chiefs, I've executed Zheng Yongtai and Xia Ruohai internally. After he said that, he paused for a few seconds to give the old men time to digest the news. I only have one goal in doing this, and that is to completely prevent similar situations from happening again. At the same time, I hope to elevate the National Special Affairs Bureau to a ministerial level. It's because of the current administrative level of my unit that the resources that can be allocated are limited by many factors. That's why there has been no progress in communicating with the inner force martial artists. At the same time, it's very easy for the leaders of the various branches to covet benefits and be bribed by the inner force martial artists. When Zheng Yongtai jumped out to help Ouyang Qianxing expose this matter, he was basically destined to die. It was funny that he thought he was being put in an important position, but he did not know that he was being abandoned. The old man in the middle was not surprised when he heard the news of Zheng Yongtai and Xia Ruoyun's deaths. Things were different now. Although Ouyang Qianxing had been planning for many years, he did not dare to shed all pretense of cordiality with the Wuxia military and fight for real. He wanted to get rid of Zheng Yongtai, the incompetent fool, for a long time. This was just an excuse, and he could also show his cards to the old men. He felt that it was time for him to take another step forward. With the scope of the Special Affairs Bureau's authority, once the entire department was promoted to a ministerial level, his identity and status would be close to that of a deputy state. He would wait a few more years, endure until those who should die were dead, and those who should retreat had retreated. When that time came, he would naturally be able to ascend to the throne, and that would be more comfortable than anything else. In this world, no matter how good one's martial arts was, one only had 100 years of life. Rather than muddling along like a fly, it was better to make a big splash. Ouyang Qianxing felt that he had the right time, the right place, and the right people. If he did not take the gamble, he would be letting down his years of hiding in the shadows and living like a snake. Now it was time for him to step forward and transform into a dragon. In the large meeting room, after Ouyang Qianxing voiced his wish, there was an inexplicable silence. Everyone knew that Ouyang Qianxing was just putting on a show. He had dared to execute Zheng Yongtai and Xia Ruoyun in private without the slightest scruple. It could be considered as a proof of his loyalty, but it was also a clear message to everyone that the entire Special Affairs Bureau was like an iron bucket in his hands. If you don't let me advance, I'll make it worse. However, if he really did as he wished, it would mean that he had officially entered the throne room with the help of an inner force martial artist, which would become a hidden danger in the future. Governing a country was like cooking a small fish, and one could never escape the ways of the world. The so-called important matters were also decided time and time again on such a small table. Ouyang Qianxing had placed all the old men on the bonfire, unable to advance or retreat. All right, we understand what you're trying to say, but we can't make a decision on such short notice. Let's think about it a bit more before we make a decision. The old man in the middle used the delaying tactic. Ouyang Qianxing had achieved his goal today, so he did not dare to be overbearing. He responded and cut off the communication. The meeting room was silent again. Everyone looked at the old man in the middle. In the past 20 to 30 years, although the rulers of this country had changed one after another, the important decisions that truly concerned the survival of the country were all made by this old man's mind. After a long time, his murky gaze became brighter. He slowly stood up. Everyone held their breaths in silence. Every word he said next was as heavy as 1,000 caddies. A malignant tumor must be removed. The first sentence set the tone. Chaos can be within their boundaries, but they must not harm the people. The second sentence made his stance clear. I, Old Lin, am not afraid of death. Are you all not afraid of death? No. The breathing of many old men in their 60s gradually became heavy. 20 years ago we were weak because we had no choice. Now we have the world's most advanced missiles, the best tanks, and millions of soldiers. You're just a few martial artists and you want to step on all of us and act like tyrants? They aren't as united as a piece of iron. From now on, start Operation Qingguang. Rope in all the martial artists that can be roped in, and remove all tumors that need to be removed. We, this group of old fellows, will bring them to the coffin with us. We'll die sooner or later, and when we've lived enough, we can die at any time. I want to see who dares to come to my bed and put a dagger on it. This was a declaration. Within 2 weeks, we will hold a military exercise with individual combat weapons. It will be kept secret internationally but open internally. We will specially invite inner force martial artists to come and observe. Get Ouyang Qianxing to deliver the invitation. We will set up a new department at the ministerial level, and gradually eliminate the Special Affairs Bureau. This was a swift and decisive strategy. According to reliable sources, the internal force martial artists are also undergoing changes. One of the three traditional aristocratic families, the Wen family, has just experienced a change. The eldest daughter of the Wen family, Wen, has become one of the most powerful people in the world. She has already declared war on the Poison Sect and Dark Sect, which are suspected to be the closest to Ouyang Tianqing. The Wen family has always been a scholarly family. They cultivate knowledge, practice the way of health, and appreciate the nature of a saint. Our strategy is to rope in the Wen family, and if necessary to help them eliminate the Poison Sect and Dark Sect. Other than that, the person in charge of this new department should be someone close to the Wen family. Qin Guang is the best candidate. Qin Guang had underestimated this group of old men. They would either not do it or they would do it to the end. That night, when he was lying alone on the bed in Zhuo Jingxi's house, Xan Qin used the key she already had to push open the door and pull Qin Guang out of bed in his underwear. "What are you doing? Are you trying to be a hooligan?" A little Lolita raiding a pervert's bed at night was too much for him to handle. Xan Qin threw a top-secret document in front of him. "Take this. Didn't you want to flip the table? Now that you're sleepy, someone's here to bring you a pillow." Qin Guang took the document and looked at it. The first page was written in meticulous handwriting. The strokes were domineering and full of murderous intent. One look and he could tell that it was the handwriting of someone who had been in a high position for a long time. Since the victory of the War of Resistance and the founding of the nation, we, the younger generation, have inherited the legacy of our martyrs and worked together to make the country prosperous and the people strong. 20 years ago, when we were facing internal and external troubles, we were coerced by the martial artists. We were afraid of death and reaped the bitter fruits of our own actions, becoming a sinner. Now 20 years have passed. We have been treading on thin ice, trembling with fear. Finally, we have achieved something. The martial artists want to stir up trouble and stir up the society. Today, if we give in again, we will not have the face to meet the heroic martyrs in the underworld. We will fight to the death with our half-crippled bodies. We do not seek longevity, but we seek a clear conscience. This opening clearly told Qin Guang the anger and murderous intent that these old men had been suppressing for a long time. Qin Guang laughed. "You didn't disappoint me after all. Qin Guang plan? Good, very good. Individual military exercises? This is interesting. No one has reported on our country's individual combat weapons in the forum. I've never seen it. Establishing a new department to replace the Special Affairs Bureau? That's not a bad idea. The special department that could nurture a scumbag like Tseng Yongtai should have been kicked off a long time ago." Qin Guang read on and was secretly pleased. As the eldest disciple of the Thousand Extremities sect, Xan Qin had obviously joined the so-called Tianguang plan. She had sent this top-secret document to him overnight, which meant that she was also a part of the Tianguang plan. Now that he was destined to be enemies with the Poison Sect and the Dark Sect, how could he not be happy that he had found such a powerful backer? Moreover, this Tianguang plan was obviously named after the old man. That was why he was so thick-skinned. The old man's original intention was to push aside the dark clouds to reveal the bright moon, but he had shamelessly used it to his advantage. Wait. The name of this new department. Qin Guang pointed at the 4 words written on the black and white paper on the document with some difficulty. Xan Qin had asked the others the same question before. She rolled her eyes and explained, "What they mean is that we shouldn't make too much noise at the beginning. They're going to gradually shut down the Special Affairs Bureau. It's not like they're going to cut them off all at once. That's why they deliberately came up with this name to hide it." Qin Guang broke out in a cold sweat. It's a department-level department after all. Even if it's for the sake of concealment, they can't do this. Isn't this 2F** King shameful? For the sake of concealment, they don't even care about their reputation? Who would be so unlucky as to be this swollen chrysanthemum leader? What? Fixed. Total. Bureau. I heard that old man Lin went back and asked his grandson. His grandson said that you would definitely like this name, so it was decided. That's none of my business. Qin Guang spread his hands and continued reading. A few seconds later, his face turned ashen. "The first swollen chrysanthemum leader is me, the old man?" Xan Qin nodded. "Yes." "Even the temporary name of the department was tailor-made according to your preferences. This is really F***ket up." Xan Qin sighed. "I thought so too. What the F***ck? Why are you messing around with me? Woof woof woof. I'm the deputy swollen chrysanthemum leader." Xan Qin was a pure little girl, but when she said this, her jade-white face blushed under the moonlight. She was a little embarrassed. Chapter 585. Qin Guang was silent for a long time. He looked at the pitiful Xian Qin and said, "It must have been hard on you." Xian Qin sighed. "It's okay. I have to change the name sooner or later. Oh yes, I'm almost done with the National Middle School Darts League. When will you have time to see those young players? They are all admiring you now." Qin Guang was non-committal. "I'm not in a hurry. I will think about other things after I get past the current obstacle." The current obstacle? Xian Qin thought he was going to announce the first National Chrysanthemum Commissioner. She tidied her clothes and saluted. "Chrysanthemum Commissioner Qin Guang. Please give the order." Goosebumps rose all over Qin Guang's body as he continued, "Just take a break. Please don't mention anything about your bad luck. Why don't you just call me by my name or call me Big Brother Qin Guang like in the past?" "Aren't you going to give the order? We are working hours now. Don't you care about the title?" Xian Qin scratched her head in confusion. Qin Guang was even more confused than her. "Give the order?" "Yes. They say that a new official must make a clean sweep. Aren't you going to do something?" Xian Qin asked curiously. Qin Guang shrugged. "I am in the dark now. Apart from you, the deputy bureau chief, I am a commander without an army. What can I do? Besides, even if there is any arrangement, it will not be made by us. I'm not Superman. I am not born with knowledge. Suddenly, I am given such a strange position. Can I just rush out and command the army? Can I just sweep away flowing venom? Isn't this nonsense? We can't even protect ourselves now. The old men above us came up with such a ridiculous name. In fact, they are hinting to us not to act rashly and not to alert the enemy. Let's just do what we have to do and wait for their arrangements. I reckon that things will only become interesting after they're done with their individual military exercises." Xian Qin tilted her head. "That means I have nothing to do now? I just told them about the darts league. Isn't this tormenting them?" Qin Guang rolled his eyes. "If you really want to find trouble, it's not like there aren't any. It was said that Lolas had 3 good points. Their bodies were delicate and soft and they were easy to push down. It was the middle of the night and he was only wearing a pair of CK underwear. Xian Qin was such a cute little lowly standing in front of him. If he didn't have some dirty thoughts, Qin Guang would be letting down his conscience. "What is it?" Xian Qin didn't know what Qin Guang was up to. Qin Guang pointed at his blanket. "I'm now ordering you as the chrysanthemum head. My deputy bureau chief, hurry up and help me warm my bed." In the end, his very reasonable request ended with 2 more dark circles under his eyes, turning him into a national treasure. Qin Guang rubbed his eyes in pain. This was too much. Wasn't it just warming the bed? Was there a need to make such a big fuss? Xian Qin ran to the next room to sleep. She was afraid that if she stayed any longer, she would accidentally throw a storm dart and poke holes all over Qin Guang's body. In the end, Qin Guang still couldn't sleep well. Not long after he laid down, he received a call from Wenwen in the middle of the night. "I heard about what happened in Yanjing. What are you doing? Didn't I tell you not to get involved in it? Aren't you going to make trouble for me? What about the chrysanthemum head?" Wenwen's tone sounded a little impatient. She didn't seem very happy. Qin Guang couldn't do anything about it. "Didn't I suddenly force someone to do something beyond my abilities?" He briefly told Wenwen what had happened. He heard that before the two of them met, Qin Guang had investigated a family involved in the hot pot poisoning case in Beijing. Later on, 25 lives were implicated. Then, it was said that the people from the Special Affairs Bureau seemed to have received benefits from the poison sect and the dark sect. They wanted him to behave, so they deliberately tormented him to draw the backlash from the elders, which led to the current situation. Wenwen didn't blame him. Qin Guang hadn't done anything wrong to begin with. He had been forced to do things step by step. Wenwen sighed. "Actually, I know that with your bad temper you might not listen even if I told you. But I really hope that you won't interfere anymore. They made you the chrysanthemum head because of your dart skills, but it also has something to do with me, the one family's head. Just settle down and practice the painting scroll that I gave you. Be obedient, okay? I'm here. The sky won't fall. You don't know how powerful I am now. Ever since I broke through to the One Zone realm, I don't know what happened to me. My skills are improving by leaps and bounds. Meditating for a day is equivalent to 10 days for others. I'm not bragging, but it won't be long before I say that I'm the second best in the world." Qin Guang spat. He thought that Wenwen was bragging. Keep bragging. The Australians can't even eat beef anymore. I'm not joking. I'm serious. Won was angry. Why didn't this guy believe her? Yes. My Won's martial arts are unparalleled. Once she shows her skills, everyone will retreat. Are you satisfied now? Qingguang was speechless. That day she almost died under a gun. They hadn't seen each other for a few days. How did she become so thick-skinned over the phone? The world was so big. There were countless people with special abilities. Who would say that they were number one in the world? Did they think that people in ancient times played sword duel? Who's your family? Don't quibble. Your stomach is going to grow big soon, right? Qingguang suddenly changed the topic. Get bigger my ass. It didn't even go in. Cough. Scram. Won roared fiercely. Anyway, I knocked you out and left. What happened? Nothing. You used a bit of strength to knock me out. The bed collapsed from the impact. Can't the quality of the broken bed be bad? Can't my skills be too strong? I'm not going to argue with you. I'm busy. Anyway, listen to me. No matter what you say, don't get into a head-on conflict with them. After I suppress everyone, I'll marry you personally. Now you better behave yourself. Otherwise, I'll send someone to tie you up and lock you in my family's dungeon. Let's see how you're going to make a fuss then. I'm serious. Don't cause any more trouble. Otherwise, don't blame me for putting you under house arrest. After Won finished speaking, she hung up the phone. Clan leader, the people from Poison Clan are here. They're waiting in the hall. An old servant bowed at the door. Won suddenly stood up and unconsciously released her chi, causing many of the furnishings in the room to make a clanking sound. She really wasn't bragging to Qingguang. Ever since that day, her body seemed to have a cheat code. The inner force that had turned into 7 stars spiraled in her dantian every day, driving the inner force to circulate throughout her body. It was as if she was cultivating while walking, cultivating while eating, and even when she was asleep, the efficiency of her cultivation was even higher. It was even more so when she was meditating and cultivating. It might be an exaggeration to say that she could travel 1,000 miles in a day, but she could travel 10 miles in a day. Now that she was getting stronger, she would look for the people from Poison Clan and Dark Clan whenever she had the chance. She was even more antagonistic towards the people from Poison Clan. Now that the people from Poison Clan could no longer sit still, they sent a messenger overnight, seemingly intending to negotiate. 10 minutes later, Won held a long saber in her hand. She raised her hand and slashed down. The fake mountain around the pond 7 to 8 meters in front of her was sliced off with a flash of the saber. She shouted coldly at the Poison Clan messenger in front of her, "Don't play dumb. The poison in my father's body was administered by the people from Poison Clan. Now you're telling me that there's no antidote? Are you trying to make me laugh?" The Poison Sect's envoy, who was wrapped in black robes, trembled under the might of Wen's saber. He said with a trembling voice, "When family's clan head, please calm down. Our Poison Sect has been wrongly accused. It's all a misunderstanding." Misunderstanding? I can't be bothered to argue with you. In any case, don't let me find your headquarters. Otherwise, I'll go to your headquarters to make a misunderstanding. Won pressed on. How about this? Although the poison in Old Master Wen's body wasn't inflicted by our Poison Clan, our sect is indeed quite knowledgeable in the use of poison. We're willing to help you develop the antidote with all our might. If the antidote doesn't work, our Poison Clan sect master will personally pay a visit to apologize. This is a letter that my sect master has entrusted me with. Please take a look, Clan Master Wen. The black-robed man took out a letter from his sleeve and handed it to Won. Won used the tip of her saber to pick up the letter. The blade sliced through the air, easily shredding the outer cover of the letter into pieces. However, the letter inside was not damaged at all. She then used the tip of her saber to pick up the letter. She glanced at it through the corner of her eyes and said, "All right. Scram. I'll give your Poison Clan a month's time. If you still can't get the antidote by then, don't blame me for uprooting Poison Clan." The black-robed man bowed and left. The old servant of the Wen family, however, asked worriedly, "Clan Master, aren't we being a little too forceful?" Won waved her hand nonchalantly. "The matter has already been proven to be done by them. Both parties have a blood feud, so I won't be going overboard no matter how forceful I am. I just don't know what they're planning by stalling for time with me. However, there's no harm in doing so. Hurry up and investigate. They can drag it on and we'll investigate ours. Once we find anything, report to me immediately. I'll make them pay with their blood. In the pugilistic world, one's strength is ultimately what counts." As the current clan master of one of the three great families of inner force martial artists and having reached the grandmaster realm of the painting scroll, her skills had improved by leaps and bounds after clearing the conception and governor meridians. The current Wunwun naturally had the right to be domineering. However, she did not feel at ease. The messenger from the poison sect seemed to be keeping a low profile and was aggrieved. As long as the dark sect of the poison sect was not eliminated, her heart would not be at ease. Returning to her room silently, Wunwun did not sleep. Instead, she sat cross-legged on the ice jade bed and began to cultivate. An ordinary wooden bed could no longer withstand the power that leaked out unconsciously when she cultivated. Fortunately, the Wun family had an ancestral ice jade bed. Although it was called ice jade, it was actually a high-quality polished granite. It was exceptionally sturdy and could withstand her torment. After a while, she entered a meditative state. However, some inexplicable thoughts popped up in her mind. Rather than saying that she was meditating, it would be more accurate to say that she was having strange dreams. She kept dreaming that Qin Guang would appear beside her from time to time. He would surround her and do this and that, touching her. Most of them were shameful things that could not be seen by others. She could not help but feel a strange sucking sensation coming from her lower abdomen. It was a little sore, but it was more of a pleasure that was difficult for a girl to talk about. That was not the worst part. What was worse was that she even felt that the area between her legs was wet. When she was deep in meditation, she would even be awakened by the sound of splashing coming from below her. As a matter of fact, after completing one cycle, she opened her eyes again. Her face was flushed as she looked at the wet ice jade bed below her. She covered her face and scolded herself, "I must have been cursed by that fellow Qin Guang. Did I just sit on the ground and absorb dirt?" The strangest thing was that it was precisely this deceitful meditation that did not seem like a meditative state that allowed her to advance at an even faster speed. This was completely different from the way that her Wun family's Danqing manual stated that her heart was as still as water. Let's not talk about Wunwun's awkward situation. Let's talk about Qin Guang's side. After he hung up the phone, he only slept for about an hour in a daze. Then there was an inexplicable knock on his door. He yawned with difficulty and looked at the little Lolita who was staring at him anxiously. "What's going on? Can't you let me have a good sleep?" Xen Qin looked at him with a blushing face, then suddenly burrowed into his bed. "Damn. So direct?" Qin Guang was shocked. Xen Qin gritted her teeth and said, "You're my superior. I have to obey your orders. If you want me to warm your bed, I'll warm your bed. I apologize. I shouldn't have hit you just now. My master told me that now that the Thousand Despair sect has chosen to cooperate with the government, we must show our utmost sincerity. Obeying your superior's orders is our first sincerity." "I was just joking with you," Qin Guang shouted. "Is that so? I'll leave then." Xan Qin ran away again. As she walked, she patted her chest in relief as if she had let go of a huge burden. Qin Guang was dumbfounded again. Your reaction is too fast." To be honest, he was a little regretful. The next morning, Qin Guang finally received the biggest piece of good news recently. While he was sleeping the night before, Azure had prepared a brand new special training for him. He could finally take the first solid step in the physical training that he had exchanged for with faith points. Qin Guang plunged into Cloud City. "Can I learn Wind God's legs like Niefeng's in Wind and Cloud in one go?" Azure chuckled. "Dream on. Last time, I let you finish training the entire Qilin arm because it was a reward world in the punishment realm. The normal Genling sky is slightly weaker. You can train your legs, but you have to start from the soles of your feet step by step." "So weak." "Weak my ass. It's a free benefit and you have the cheek to say that it's weak? If you have the ability, then don't practice it. Why don't you practice it according to your Wunwun's painting scroll? By the way, don't be in a hurry. Before you practice, boil the medicine that your Wunwun sent over according to her prescription. Will be good for you." It was rare for Azure to be so considerate. Although she was impatient, she actually knew to remind Qin Guang of the things that he should pay attention to. Okay. Qin Guang agreed happily. "By the way, Lord Azure, can you help me estimate how many Genling Sky special training worlds I need to practice before I can start practicing my internal strength?" Azure stretched out 4 fingers. Qin Guang was overjoyed. "For?" Azure smiled without saying anything. 40? Qin Guang asked again. Azure snapped her fingers. "Ice dog. Bingo. F***CK. At my current speed, I can only practice 1 round of special training after several days of faith points. Won't it take more than half a year to practice 40? Qin Guang panicked. Seeing that a great battle was imminent, he was very anxious. Azure shrugged. You're blaming me? You're the one who has been idling around all day not doing proper work. You're blaming me for not increasing your faith points production? Besides, do you think it's that easy to master external strength and body? Although that painting scroll is low-end, it can indeed train a person's muscles, bones, skin, flesh, and even internal organs to the extreme. The heavenly Holy Grail only needs 40 small worlds to surpass its master. It will take at most 7 to 8 months. Why do you still need a bicycle? Alright, you don't have to say any more. I'll think of a way to get more faith points. I'll think of a way right now. Qin Guang was not in a hurry to start the special training. Instead, he quickly went out to receive a delivery. The medicinal ingredients that Wenwen had sent had been there for 2 to 3 days. These things were very valuable. Speaking of which, the delivery person was also an old acquaintance. It was the Dragon Gate delivery that he was the spokesperson for. Every delivery will arrive. Chapter 586. He got up and went out. Xan Qin had already gone downstairs to buy breakfast. It wasn't that Qin Guang was slacking off, but he was quite famous now, especially around Gokyo University. He had almost become one of the 5 prides of the university. Everyone talked about him and he was getting more and more famous. It was easy for people to notice him wandering around outside. If he went downstairs to have breakfast with a beautiful little girl like Xan Qin, who knew if it would become the breaking news the next day? You can stay at home and do whatever you want, Qin Guang said casually as he stuffed a bun into his mouth. Xan Qin looked at him and suddenly asked, Isn't your house across the street? Why are you staying here? Qin Guang paused for a long time before he suddenly remembered this. It was strange that he went to Zhuo Jingxi's bedroom to sleep. He must have been controlled by a demon. What do you know? Rich people can do whatever they want. Rich people rent 2 rooms at a time, sleep one and leave one empty. Otherwise, I don't know how to spend the money. TSK, there's something fishy. I saw it yesterday. The bedroom you slept in was clearly a room that a girl usually stayed in. Tell me, are you hiding a mistress behind Jean Shirue or Miss Wen's back? Xan Qin suddenly asked about Qin Guang. Qin Guang was confused by her random questions. He patted her head and said, Kids should eat and grow. Don't ask about adult matters. You womanizer. Xan Qin glared at him fiercely again, but she was thinking, I have to be careful of this guy. What if one day he really orders me to sleep with him? What should I do? Master, should I listen to the orders of this fat chrysanthemum leader? I haven't considered such a complicated situation. If that's the case, I can only knock him out. Alright, what are you going to do later? I'm going to get something from Dragon Gate Express. Qin Guang put down his bowl and finished it quickly. I'll go with you. What are you going to do? Just stay at home obediently. In fact, Qin Guang wanted to take the opportunity to secretly look for Lu Fei to see if he could borrow some money from her. Although he had recently earned some money through Weibo and live streaming, he was in a hurry to expand the source of faith points. There were many places where he needed to spend money. It was better to have more liquid funds in reserve. He could borrow some money from Lu Fei, the country bumpkin, and then think of a way to slowly pay it back every month. Things were different now. Now that his income had increased, he didn't have any psychological barriers to borrowing money. Besides, didn't Liuli still have 170 million yuan to buy the company? Although there was no sign of it floating away, it would happen sooner or later, right? Even if it's a loss, it's still a loss. At least leave me some scraps, right? At the same time, he could also see what Sister Lu Fei was busy with recently. Did she have a change of heart? Could he take advantage of her? He really didn't know what was going on. After returning from Yanjing to Wujing, he felt inexplicably unsettled again. It was all Jiang Ye's fault. She blocked him in the toilet and took advantage of the old man for most of the day, but he couldn't do it to the end. He felt empty in his heart until now. Yesterday he had been too busy during the day. There were too many things to do, so he had no time to think about those messy and dirty thoughts. But when he returned to the 5 capital, he needed to borrow money, thought of Lu Fei, and then thought of the time when he was with Lu Fei when he took whatever she wanted. His mind really drifted uncontrollably. His thoughts were beautiful, but reality was cruel. In the end, he still couldn't get rid of Xan Qin. No matter what, she had to wear a mask and sunglasses and follow him. I'm your deputy director now. You're useless except for throwing darts. I have the responsibility and obligation to protect your safety. Qin Guang started the phaeton with the Passat logo. As he drove to the exit of the parking lot, he said, Don't look down on me. If you want to practice darts well, you must first have a pair of strong arms. Although I don't have internal strength now, the old man has the strongest Kirin arm in history. Do you understand? Do you see this impeccable bicep? The exclusive bicep of Kirin arm is worth having and trustworthy. Bah, you're so lewd. Don't you feel ashamed to say such wretched words in front of a cute girl like me? Although Xan Qin was naive, she actually understood the online slang of Kirin arm. Qin Guang was really ashamed. This can't be blamed on me. There is a deep reason behind it. Please believe that I'm a good and upright young man. It's your own hand. Don't you decide what you want to call it? If it's wretched, then it's wretched. Why explain? It's not my first day knowing you. You're a boy after all. Which boy doesn't have messy thoughts? I understand and understand. Since you've helped me so much, do you want to experience the unique technique of the Thousand Despair sect, the Thousand Despair Kirin arm? As Xan Qin spoke, she turned her head and looked at Qin Guang with a playful gaze. Really? Qin Guang was overjoyed. Bah, you'll show your true colors after a little seduction. Upright my ass. Xan Qin turned her face away decisively and did not want to talk to him anymore. Qin Guang clenched his teeth fiercely. Don't force me. Be careful that I act as a world-class charmer. I'll talk to you until you turn into a little slut. What are you thinking? I keep feeling that your eyes are shining when you look at the chrysanthemum of the car in front. Shut up. Don't disturb me while I'm driving. As the two of them bickered strangely, they arrived at the entrance of a luxurious residential area near the second ring road in Wujing City. Dragon Gate Express was different from other delivery companies. Due to the uniqueness of their business, they either did not have any business or they wanted to do big business. They did not need a huge warehouse. In fact, they only had one branch office in each city, which served as both a warehouse and an office. This branch office in Wujing was located in this luxurious residential area that was known as the Wealthy District. It occupied a standalone villa of about 500 square meters. Actually, Qin Guang could have asked them to deliver the goods to his door with a phone call. However, his original plan was to lure Xan Qin out to look for Lu Fei. Since he had already lied, he could only go there personally to cover up his lie. The two of them waited at the entrance of the residential area for a while. A young man in a suit walked out. He followed the license plate number and knocked on Qin Guang's car window. Are you Qin Guang? Qin Guang felt that the young man's attitude was not very friendly. However, considering that Dragon Gate Express had a martial arts background and was doing a big business, it was normal for the King of Hell to be difficult to deal with. He nodded and said, "That's me." Then the young man greeted the security guard of the residential area and said casually, "Go straight in and turn right after passing the third villa. It's villa number 66 in the 7th building." He left right after he said that. He did not intend to lead the way for Qin Guang. Xan Qin raised her nose angrily and looked at the back of the young man. His nostrils are so high up in the sky. Director Long, the quality of the employees in this company is too bad. He is only trained to muscle force. He is not very capable, but he has quite a temper. As Qin Guang drove through the fence, he wondered, "You can see through his skills?" Xan Qin said proudly, "Of course. I'm a genius disciple of the Thousand Despair sect. What secret can a mere muscle force have in front of me? You won't be able to find someone at my age who has trained to bone force, which is close to skin force." Qin Guang quietly said two words, "One." Xan Qin was immediately unhappy. She pouted and said, "One. All you think about is one. What's so good about her? If I were you, I would have cut ties with her a long time ago. Didn't she think that being friends with you would bring you trouble?" All right, I won't argue with you." Qin Guang did not completely not think about what Xan Qin said. However, no one was perfect. When he and One first met, who would have expected so many things to happen? However, he did not regret it and he could not blame One for it. If he really wanted to blame someone, he could only blame those people who tried to harm the One family. However, thinking about it, One also blamed herself. However, it did not matter. When the old man mastered the painting scroll and became the Condor heroes with her, they would be able to tidy up everything that needed to be tidied up. Then all the past would disappear. For these two people, thousands of thoughts did not need to be spoken out. They were hidden in their hearts and understood each other. The two of them stopped the car. The young man in the suit had already gone upstairs. The two of them knocked on the doorbell again. After waiting for about a minute, someone came down to open the door. This time it was someone else who opened the door. It was a young man in a white chemical protective suit. He threw two sets of hard chemical protective suits over. Put them on and follow me to the underground warehouse. Chen Guang and Xan Qin held their temper and wrapped the chemical protective suits tightly. However, they were thinking whether they should talk to President Long Dingtian later and see what kind of people his unlucky company kept. Do you still want to do your business? What kind of service attitude is this? Since you want to do high-class delivery of valuable goods, then the customers you contact must be rich or noble. Look at what these lousy employees in your company have done. No matter what others think, the old man will not let people deliver goods from your company next time unless he has a cramp in his brain. Chen Guang and Xan Qin were not in a hurry to cover the chemical protective suits. Chen Guang whispered, "How about we talk to President Long and ask him not to broadcast my advertisement? This is simply smearing my reputation as a spokesperson." Xan Qin also nodded. "A little bit, but I have already spent the money. What should I do?" "Really? Then let's wait for them to run their own company down. Anyway, there is no way for me to pay for it." "What are you two whispering about? Put on the mask. There are some valuable goods in the warehouse. What if your breath condenses into water mist and corrodes them?" The young man in front turned back and shouted through the chemical protective suit mask. Xan Qin was about to explode. "Oh, I have a little temper." Chen Guang quickly pulled her back. Don't be impulsive. Take the things first." Xan Qin put on the mask angrily. "Forget it. For President Long's sake, I will endure it one more time. Alright, take your hand away. My Wang Zai mantu is not enough for you to pinch. Oh, little girl, you are so sharp." Chen Guang withdrew his hand in embarrassment and put on his mask as well. "Really, you should have said such an embarrassing thing in private. In broad daylight, people who didn't know better would think that an old man like me was taking advantage of a little girl. It was just that this chemical protective suit was too hard, and he couldn't feel it at all. This was an accident, really an accident." After going through a long staircase, the three of them went all the way to the basement. Halfway through, they passed at least 3 disinfection gates. Although the quality of the employees of this Dragon Gate Express was so low that it made one's hair stand on end, the hardware and facilities looked quite high-end. Fingerprint lock, password lock, and iris lock. The young man consecutively entered 3 passwords and finally opened a large iron gate on the wall. Then he pulled out an ebony box that was 1.5 feet tall, 1 foot 7 inches wide, and 2.5 feet long. He put it on the ground. "You guys can move it out. The things are here." Chen Guang's eyelids twitched. This bastard must have been kicked out of bed by his wife last night. His resentment must be too strong, right? This was a skill that constantly emitted fire chi to attract aggro. Its proficiency level was off the charts. Forget it. For the sake of President Long's endorsement fee of 10 million, I will King endure it. Chen Guang bent over and picked up the box. He rushed out of the underground storeroom and walked up the stairs. Xan Qin also fiercely glared at this uneducated staff member and memorized his stupid face behind the chemical protective suit mask. "If I don't call Boss Long after I get out of here, I'll sue you until my head is full of bumps. Otherwise this lowly's name isn't Xan Qin." When the two of them went up to the first floor, the young man in the suit from before came again. You have taken the things. Can we go now?" "Go. Let's go. Don't King rush us." Xan Qin was so angry that she actually cursed. Chen Guang, on the other hand, rubbed his fists together. As long as this bastard said something unpleasant again, he would immediately slap him in the face. He had sold President Long's face time and time again, but he could not sell it anymore. This King endorsement fee, could the old man not earn it anymore? Unexpectedly, the young man in the suit was not angry at all. He still had a smile on his face as he opened the door. He waved his hand and said, "Please?" The two of them walked out of the villa angrily. They had no idea what had happened today. Chen Guang was about to move the box into the car when he suddenly realized a problem. With the old man's many years of online shopping experience, we seem to have forgotten to open the box and inspect the goods. Inspect the goods? Inspect what goods? Dragon Gate Express will not do things recklessly. Alright, what are the things inside? Who sent them? Xan Qin was puzzled. Chen Guang waved his hand. No. Under normal circumstances, I will definitely not inspect the goods. But don't you think that the 2 scumbags just now are too much? They seem to want to chase us out like we are the plague. Xan Qin smacked her lips. Really? Chen Guang nodded. It's a ghost. A huge ghost. Open the box and take a look. Xan Qin nodded. The two of them placed the box on the ground and opened it. It was filled with medicinal herbs, and the smell of medicine wafted into their noses. Is there no problem? Is it Chinese medicine? Chen Guang took out his phone and opened WeChat. He compared the list of goods that Wenwen had sent him. Is this the medicine that Wenwen sent you? Xan Qin asked as she bent down to look at the medicinal herbs. Chen Guang nodded. He thought that since she was pestering him all day, he could not hide the fact that he wanted to soak the medicine from her. He might as well tell her. He could not let the painting scroll spread, but it was not a problem to let Xan Qin know that he wanted to practice the painting scroll. Yes, these are the external medicinal herbs that Wenwen prepared for me to practice the painting scroll. Painting scroll? Xan Qin exclaimed. Then she realized that she had lost her composure and covered her mouth. How is that possible? The Wen family's painting scroll is never spread. Even the son-in-law who marries into the family cannot learn it. This is their ancestral teaching, she said nervously in a low voice. She looked like she had seen a ghost. Chen Guang was pleased. What do you know? This is true love. Moreover, she is now a literary grandmaster. I heard that she can decide to pass the painting scroll to me. It's not a problem. Xan Qin was jealous. She was jealous that Chen Guang could learn the painting scroll. She was even more jealous that Wenwen was a literary grandmaster. She could actually give the painting scroll to him as a favor. Compared to these two, her reputation as a genius disciple of the Thousand Absolute sect was really shameful. What else could she give to Chen Guang that would be more prestigious than the painting scroll? She could not give him the cultivation technique of the Thousand Absolute sect. Apart from her stunning beauty and her peerless body, she probably could not compare to Wenwen in anything else, right? She thought. Then she picked up a ginseng. Her eyes narrowed. Something's not right. Your list says it's 100-year-old ginseng, but why do I feel that the one in my hand is a small radish? What? Radish? Are you King kidding me? Crunch. Xan Qin took a bite and stuffed it in front of Chen Guang's mouth. Why don't you try it? It's a real radish. It's the kind that can replenish all kinds of vitamins. It's natural and organic. Chen Guang could not care less about his indirect kiss with Xan Qin. He took a bite and threw the radish on the ground. I'm a thunder thrower. 100-year-old ginseng turned into a radish. This Dragon Gate Express is going against the heavens. Clearly, Wenwen could not have sent it to the wrong person. Other than the fact that this daring Dragon Gate Express employee had switched the ginseng, he could not think of anything else. However, Chen Guang couldn't be bothered to figure out where his employees got their guts from to even dare to switch their spokesperson's goods. He held onto the box with one hand and returned to the door, banging on the door. Come out. Come out. Chapter 587. How could Chen Guang tolerate such a scam? He slammed the alloy security door so hard that it made banging sounds. He was barely able to control himself. Otherwise, the security door would probably be deformed if he used all his strength. After slamming for almost 2 minutes, the person inside finally could not take it anymore. It was still the young man in a suit. He opened the door and glared at Chen Guang. What are you doing? Are you looking for trouble? When this person spoke, his nostrils were practically pointed at the sky. He was arrogant, despotic, and condescending. Chen Guang waved the other white radish he took out from the box and waved it in front of this bastard's eyes. Looking for trouble? I think you're the one looking for trouble. Open your dog eyes and take a good look at what this is. I exchanged my 100-year-old ginseng for a white radish. You guys sure have guts. How dare you eat my stuff? The young man in a suit was not nervous in the face of Chen Guang's questioning. He was still as arrogant as ever. Don't slander us. Our company's business is over after we handed the stuff over to you. Now that you've opened the box yourself, you're telling me that you exchanged your stupid ginseng for a white radish? Who knew if the box was originally filled with white radishes? Otherwise, you must have replaced the radishes yourself. How dare you try to blackmail us, Dragon Gate Express? Chen Guang was furious. This bastard was the perfect example of a delivery company's bad habit. After receiving the goods, he did not acknowledge it and did not even allow him to open it on the spot. Yet, Chen Guang was making a false accusation. Would Wenwen send a white radish over? Don't King mess with me, okay? Get lost. Don't interfere with our work. Otherwise you'll be in trouble. The young man in a suit waved his hand impatiently. He wanted to chase Chen Guang away as if he was chasing a fly away. Chen Guang flew into a rage and was about to attack, but Xan Qin, who was beside him, couldn't hold back anymore. Sure enough, he was still a young man with a bad temper. He attacked without saying a word and didn't want to talk nonsense with him. A white shadow flashed, and the petite Xen brushed past Qin Guang. She placed her hand on Qin Guang's shoulder and flew up like a butterfly. The tip of her foot lightly stepped on the forehead of the young man in the suit. It seemed to be a light touch, but the young man was sent flying as if he had been hit by a heavy hammer. With a rumble, he crashed into the wooden handrail a few meters behind him and fell to the ground. The other employees of Dragon Gate Delivery who were sitting on the first floor of the villa slapped the table and stood up. They surrounded him and all of them were very excited. Xen stood there with a cold face. She pulled off the mask on her face. How dare a group of weaklings be so arrogant? Even if I let you use only one hand, you still wouldn't be my opponent. Xen of the Thousand Despair sect was here. Who dares to attack me? Qin Guang stood behind Xen. He wanted to see what would happen if he hit this person's stomach with his Qilin arm, but he did not have the chance to do so. He felt regretful, but since Xen took the initiative to jump out and become his fighter, he was happy that he could save himself some effort. The young man in the suit was clearly the person in charge of this branch company. Even though he was suddenly hit, Xen had shown mercy and did not kill him. He rubbed the blood from his mouth and stood up slowly. He glared at Xen with a fierce gaze. Don't talk nonsense. Ms. Xen is in Beijing, and it's impossible for her to come here. You're an imposter. Oh my, I'm a little hot-tempered. Xen rolled up her sleeves and walked forward. She really wanted to cut this person into pieces. Qin Guang reacted quickly. He quickly extended his arms from behind her and hugged her. Wait a minute. Let me get my things back first. Let me tell you, next time you take advantage of me like this, can you at least tell me beforehand? There are so many people watching. No, it's an accident. This is definitely an accident. Look at my sincere eyes. Qin Guang coughed twice and stood in front of the young man in the suit. I'm not going to talk nonsense with you. Now, give me back all the herbs that you stole and I can pretend that nothing happened. Do you know who I am? Do you know who gave me this medicine? Do you believe that I will call your boss Long right now? When that time comes, you won't be able to bear the consequences. When he said this, he did not know why, but a strong sense of incongruity arose in his heart. Oh my God, when did the old man become so villainous? Usually, villains who said such things to show off would not survive more than 2 episodes in the story. I don't care who you are. Anyway, I don't know what's going on with your medicine. It was obvious that the young man in the suit did not care about anything that Qin Guang said. Qin Guang frowned. Could it be that these people really did not know him? When he thought about it, it was not impossible. After all, although he was a little famous now, he was still far from an international superstar like Wuxia. It was understandable that they did not know him. However, this matter seemed to be a little f***ed up. He did not know how Dragon Gate Express's rules were set up. It seemed that the sender and the recipient's information were all hidden. The standard of this salesman was almost breaking the bottom line. You're so stubborn, aren't you? It seems that I can only call your boss Long. He even dares to steal the herbs that the head of the Wen family gave to me, Qin Guang, who is also the spokesperson of Dragon Gate Express. He is so lawless. Qin Guang said as he prepared to take out his phone. At this moment, a middle-aged woman walked out from the door next to the hall of the villa. She was dressed like a servant and held a typical ceramic pot of guangwei soup in her hand. Boss, isn't this medicine too heavy? Will it cause problems? The middle-aged woman held the pot in her hand and looked distressed. It was obvious that the pot had been boiled for a period of time. She held it out and shook it slightly, and the room was filled with the fragrance of the medicine. Hey you grandson, are you lying through your teeth? Not only did this group of scum steal his medicine, but they even cooked the soup on the spot. The scene became a little awkward for a moment. At this moment, a staff member standing in front of the computer seemed to have accidentally glanced at the computer from the corner of his eye. The company's spokesperson just edited the promotional video sample. It was just sent to the company's group chat. Then he immediately clicked on the video. Dragon Gate Express. Everything will be delivered. A few seconds later, Qin Guang's handsome face appeared in the video. However, at that time, Qin Guang still had a head of beautiful hair. Now he was bald. It was no wonder that no one could recognize him. The young man in the suit's face instantly turned pale. He first looked at the screen that was playing the video sample, then looked at Qin Guang. What? Do you believe me now? Spit out what you've eaten from me. Hand over the other medicinal ingredients. Qin Guang placed his hands on his waist and took a step forward. Xen followed closely behind, ready to attack at any moment. She had also learned something new. The Dragon Gate Express 5 Capital branch had completely changed her outlook on life. The young man in the suit's face first turned from yellow to white, then from white to green, and before long, it turned black again. He looked at Qin Guang and Xan Qin, and his expression changed several times. Then he secretly gave the others a look, and suddenly, a fierce glint flashed in his eyes. "I don't know you. How dare you barge into our company? Then you're the enemy of Dragon Gate Express. Kill." As soon as he finished speaking, he took out a half-foot dagger from his waist and glared at Qin Guang and Xan Qin fiercely. The others also understood tacitly and surrounded them from all directions. Obviously, seeing that the matter had been exposed and they had offended someone they couldn't afford to offend, they might as well take the lives of these two people and leave them here without anyone knowing. As an elite at the peak of bone force, Xan Qin was not afraid. She flicked her wrist and 2 plum blossom darts appeared in her palm. Good timing. The rules of the pugilistic world are that life and death are not counted. At that moment, a loud bang came from the villa's anti-theft door. The sturdy anti-theft door was completely deformed by this attack. The tense atmosphere immediately froze and everyone turned their heads to look. Another loud bang came and the anti-theft door fell. A muscular figure stood at the door, and it was the livid Chairman Long of Dragon Gate Express, Long Dingtian. The young man in the suit immediately lost his will to fight. He sat on the ground with a trembling voice. Sect Master. Long Dingtian strode forward and said angrily, "How dare you?" The young man in the suit was so terrified that he could not speak clearly. "This is a misunderstanding, Sect Master." Long Dingtian ignored him. Instead, he turned around and cupped his hands at Qin Guang and Xan Qin. "Both of you, I Long Dingtian would like to apologize to you here. Such a scum has appeared in the sect, and it has ruined my reputation. I will definitely compensate Mr. Chen for your loss, and I will definitely give both of you a satisfactory explanation." Qin Guang looked at Long Dingtian, who was suppressing his anger, and he was not very happy. "I was your spokesperson, and one trusted your company and asked you to help me deliver the goods. In the end it turned out to be like this? Chairman Long, your company's business standards really need to be improved. If I didn't come with Xan Qin today, I'm afraid your incredible employees would have killed me." Qin Guang here. Qin Guang's words were filled with dissatisfaction. Xan Qin was also very unhappy. "Chairman Long, since you've chosen to do business, you should follow the rules of a businessman. If you don't give me a satisfactory answer, I'm afraid I'll go back and report this to my master. As for the business between our Thousand Despair sect and Thousand Flower Valley..." Long Dingtian's expression changed and his pupils shrank. He seemed to have made a decision and cupped his hands again. "Of course, I Long Dingtian have always been a responsible person." At that moment, the young man in the suit realized something from Long Dingtian's tone. His face turned pale and he retreated while shouting, "No. No. Sect Master, you were..." As soon as the young man in the suit finished his sentence, Long Dingtian turned around at lightning speed and slapped the young man's head. His inner force burst forth and a dull sound was heard. The eyes of the young man in the suit instantly became slack. His mouth was wide open and his face was filled with panic. His eyes were filled with confusion and unwillingness, but he was still dead in the end. He fell limply to the ground, and there was no longer any sign of life. "The main culprit has been executed. All of you, break one of your arms." Long Dingtian said coldly as he pointed at the other 10 staff members of the 5 Capital Branch Company, who were also his sect's disciples. "I'll count to 3. Those who break their arms will die." Long Dingtian began to count. 3. As soon as he finished counting to 3, he heard a series of groans in the room. These people were fighting to be the first to break their arms, and the scene looked exceptionally cruel. Long Dingtian's decisiveness in killing was beyond Qin Guang's expectations, but Xan Qin didn't seem to be surprised. "Mr. Qin, is this considered an explanation?" Long Dingtian turned around again and smiled apologetically at Qin Guang and Xan Qin. "Yes." Qin Guang suppressed the discomfort in his heart and snorted. In the past, he had only seen these inner force martial artists disregard human lives in the intelligence reports or after the incident. Today he had experienced it himself and he was the cause of the incident. Of course he felt a little uncomfortable. However, such incidents might not be rare in the future, so he had to adapt even if he couldn't adapt. Xan Qin didn't say anything and just nodded slightly in satisfaction. Xan Qin might look like a cute loli normally, but when it came to the matters of the underworld she was more experienced than Qin Guang. However, Long Dingtian waved his hand again. This isn't enough. As soon as he finished speaking, he punched his chest fiercely. A muffled sound echoed like the ringing of a large bell, and a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Because of my personal negligence, Mr. Qin and Xan Qin from the Thousand Despair sect have fallen into a dangerous situation and suffered grievances. I'll hurt my heart as an apology. I hope Miss Xan won't let this matter affect my cooperation with your sect. Alright, I promise you. Xan Qin finally relented. From the moment Long Dingtian entered the door until now, he had been interrogated, killed, broken arms, and mutilated himself. This series of events took a long time to describe, but it happened so quickly that it caught people off guard. At the dining table in Beijing, he was the smiling and amiable Chief Long. However, when he arrived at the 5 Capital Branch Company, he became a pure underworld person when dealing with the traders. When he made a move he killed without blinking. Long Dingtian wiped off the blood from the corner of his mouth again. He didn't take the injuries on his body seriously and cupped his fists at Qin Guang. Mr. Qin, please take a seat. I'll get someone to send over the medicinal ingredients that they dared to steal. I'll definitely compensate you twice as much as you lack. Qin Guang didn't reply and merely nodded. His peripheral vision would occasionally glance at the corpse of the young man in a suit that was lying on the ground. This small action completely exposed his state of mind as an ordinary person. Long Dingtian rolled his eyes and asked the few servants who broke their arms to retrieve the stolen goods. He then said rather casually, Mr. Qin, don't be surprised. When these servants entered our sect, they had to sign a life and death agreement. His behavior in our Dragon Gate escort agency is equivalent to deceiving his master and ancestors. According to the past rules, he should be punished with the death penalty. However, as the main culprit, he can't escape the death penalty. This matter is in accordance with the rules of the underworld and also the rules set by the imperial court. There will be someone to handle it. After saying that, Long Dingtian pointed to the sky with a meaningful look. Qin Guang understood. Of course there will be someone to handle it for you. Isn't it the Special Affairs Bureau? Thinking about how arrogant and unscrupulous the young man in a suit was and how he wanted to kill when he saw that the matter had been exposed, Qin Guang couldn't sympathize with him. However, there was a faint sense of discomfort and incongruity in his heart. He couldn't tell where it came from, but he could just treat it as a man's intuition. The two of them waited for about 5 to 6 minutes. The young man in a suit's corpse had already been dragged somewhere. The box of medicinal ingredients that Wunwen had sent over was then exchanged from the raccoon to the crown prince. After a quick count, they realized that there were still 3 ginseng and other precious medicinal ingredients missing. Clearly they had been added to the pot of Cantonese-style soup. Long Dingtian immediately decided to double the amount of medicinal ingredients as soon as possible. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.